We choose the latter. Wanda and Pietro chose mystery and danger almost without hesitation. Rather than ordinary people's lives, it's not that Moyu can't understand this. A series of previous experiences between the two have shaped their current behavioral principles. Life is so precarious that even ensuring one's own safety can be considered a luxury. After all, their hometown, Sokovia, is a small, mountainous and barren country. It has been in turmoil for the past 100 years, and wars can be seen everywhere. It is not difficult to imagine how miserable the people there are. At a time when life and personal safety cannot be guaranteed, Wanda and Pietro naturally long for the power to control their own lives. This is also the most critical reason why the two voluntarily became Hydra test subjects. I want power, I want to take charge of my life, but this just shows that the two of them prefer to live a stable and ordinary life. If you can live a stable and happy life, who wants to rebel? Isn't it all because we have no choice and can't live anymore? Wanda and Pietro are not the kind of ambitious people who want to use their power to bring trouble to the world. The original intention of seeking strength is just to live a more stable life. Well, maybe there's a little bit of wanting to get revenge on Stark, but that's not the main part. Choose the latter? When the two of them gave the answer so easily, Moyu just raised his hand slightly. Maybe you don't understand what kind of mystery and danger I talk about, but it doesn't matter, just take a look. The space rippled with waves, and then suddenly shattered like broken glass, and the mirror space was already opened. The scene tumbled, and after coming back to consciousness, the location where the three of them were was already in the vast and boundless universe. The next moment, the universe flickers and flips like a mirror. The projection of the multidimensional universe slowly appears. Broken, twisted, chaotic. The immersive senses made the two of them shake their bodies. He was obviously stimulated by these images. However, this is not over yet. These things can only be regarded as appetizers. As Moyu's thoughts turned, suddenly, a strange and terrifying evil god's shadow flickered in front of the two of them. Those are the various evil gods who were driven out of the cholera-ridden earth. In addition, terrifying projections also appeared, including but not limited to Hell Dimension Mephitis, Dream Dimension Nightmare, Dark Dimension Dormammu, Chaos Dimension Beholder, etc. lords of various dimensions. The unparalleled terrifying impact caused their bodies to freeze. He was obviously very frightened, however, this frozen state did not last long. Maybe it was because the picture was too scary and it stimulated Wanda's nerves. The ability to modify probability was activated silently, causing all the projections in front of him to dissipate. The disappearance of the scene made the two people's tense nerves relax. Breathing heavily, more intense cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Seeing this, Moyu raised his hand and waved, the mirror space dispersed, and everything returned to normal. I have to say that the ability to modify probability is a bit abnormal. In just an instant, he bypassed the sovereign and directly settled all illusions and projections in the mirror space. If this ability works on him, although I can bear it, it will be a little uncomfortable. After all, he can only resist the rewriting of concepts below high level. The probability modification initiated by Wanda's subconscious is very close to the rewriting of high-level concepts. Seeing the two people's embarrassed looks, Moyu waved his hand again, and 2 bottles of mineral water fell directly into their arms. This small movement also made the two of them tremble. I almost threw the water out of my arms. Now do you know the level of danger I'm talking about? Moyu said softly. Drink some water and calm down before talking. Thank you. Thank you. The two turned their heads away in embarrassment, quickly unscrewed the water bottle and took several sips. Although the materials used are a bit strong, Moyu thinks it might be better this way. Ancient One magician's method of boiling a frog in warm water always feels like something will happen. Isn't this how Strange was pushed to the position of Sorcerer Supreme by the Ancient One magician step by step? You know, he went to Kamar Taj just to heal his hands. The results of it? For this almost imposed responsibility, he couldn't even take care of his beloved woman. Even ended up attending Kristen's wedding to someone else. I have to say, it looks a little pitiful. Moyu is different from Ancient One magician. We will not use words such as destiny to guide, induce or force others to follow their own wishes towards a predetermined future. He will clarify the pros and cons at the beginning and then make the choice himself. You choose your own future. Once you make a choice, you will be solely responsible for whether it is good or bad. It's that simple. It has to be said that the so-called absolute point in time and sacred timeline are indeed a kind of cancer. The existence of these things makes the so-called future fixed. Is a future that is completely fixed still called the future? It's just a completely involuntary drama. His arrival and the appearance of Hechun undoubtedly broke these. But the ancient one magician's style of doing things hasn't changed much. Wait until the mood calms down a bit. Wanda and Pietro couldn't help but re-examine the questions Moyu had given before. If stepping into the mysterious side means facing those terrifying things in the future, do they still have the courage to choose to step in? Compared with facing that kind of terrifying thing, the precarious life before seems to be acceptable? But when I thought about it again, I felt something was wrong. Even if they don't step into the mystery side, don't we have to face these things and don't exist? I'm afraid it was just blocked secretly by the magicians, and they were completely unaware. This also means that the danger is always there, it's just a matter of whether they know it or not. After thinking about this, Wanda immediately turned her head. Pietro. I know what you want to say, but not this time. Pietro shrugged. You have to know that I was born 12 minutes earlier than you. Technically speaking, I am the older brother. Therefore, I should be the one protecting you. You can't argue with me this time. I'm the elder sister, you're the younger brother, and I'm better than you. Wanda frowned. You're just an ordinary person now, but I'm not. Strictly speaking, I've already got half a foot in it, so you can't compete with me. No, Pietro shook his head without hesitation. You're trying to change the concept, and I don't agree with it. Pietro. Wanda's eyes widened. Are you itchy? Pietro said without fear. No matter what you say this time, if it doesn't work, it won't work. Brother must protect his sister. Watch the debate. It even went so far as to use force to coerce the other into submission. Moyu, who was next to him, secretly rolled his eyes. The fight between these two people is quite new. But unfortunately, it is basically impossible to enter the mysterious side without involving the people around you. Because there are always unscrupulous devils and evil gods who will start with your most important people to seize your weaknesses and defeat you. I have to say that Wanda and Pietro's ideas are a bit naive. Ahem. The quarrel between the two seemed to have no intention of ending. Moyu coughed neither lightly nor seriously. As if pressing the mute button, the quarrel between the two people stopped instantly. Wanda turned around awkwardly and sat upright, looking like an obedient primary school student listening attentively. Pietro looked helpless, but he also corrected his attitude. Nice idea. Moyu looked up at the two of them and said softly, but it's a pity that this is not realistic. Either we advance together or we retreat together. Advancing and retreating will only cause greater trouble, no matter which party it is. How come only you can think of such a good thing? Being criticized, Wanda lowered her head and twirled her fingers, feeling quite uneasy. Although Pietro felt that he had developed a thick skin, he still scratched his head in embarrassment at this moment. Yes, how could only the two of them think of such a good thing? Someone must have thought of it and implemented it before. Are you facing the ending? Probably, as Mr. Moyu said, it's not very beautiful. The only way that seemed to have the best of both worlds was blocked at this moment. The problem went full circle and returned to the same situation as before. Gentlemen. Pietro took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, if we choose to live an ordinary life, won't these troubles come to us? Not necessarily, Moyu calmly shook his head. As long as the Sorcerer Supreme doesn't pull the crotch, it's very simple if we just want to protect the Earth. But in the face of some disasters that affect the entire universe, even multiple universes or even multi-universe levels, something should happen. After all, magicians are not almighty gods, they're just ordinary people who have powers beyond ordinary people and are willing to shoulder the responsibility of protecting the world. There are mountains outside the mountains, there are people outside the people, and there is a sky outside the sky. The Sorcerer Supreme's power also has limits, and it is impossible to stop all disasters. When something exceeds the limit of one's ability, even the Sorcerer Supreme can only lament his own powerlessness and try his best to seek for the possible vitality. There are four main reasons why the Ancient One can deter the multi-universe. The first one relies on one's own ability, the second one relies on Time Gem, the third one relies on the prestige of the Trinity Wyshan Emperor, and the last one comes from the Eternal God, one of the five gods followed by the Ancient One. The top masters may look down on a small MCU at all. There are so many spicy multi-universes, and the MCU is just a new baby, which is not enough to fill the gap between teeth. At the next level, because Ancient One's background is too hard, the 3 supreme magic circles guarding the Earth are not vegetarian, and you have to weigh it a little before you want to make a move. Those at a lower level, such as the Dimension Lords like Dormammu, either cannot defeat the Ancient One, or are tricked by Time Gem. There is no chance of invasion. As for the lower level ones, as long as the Ancient One is still alive, they simply don't dare to come to the Earth to cause trouble. I was deeply afraid that I would be killed by the Ancient One accidentally. It is these various reasons that create the temporary peace of this world. Once word gets out that the Ancient One is stepping down as Sorcerer Supreme, all kinds of trouble will ensue. After all, the newly appointed Sorcerer Supreme's network of contacts is not as broad as that of the Ancient One. There is no backstage like Ancient One magician that is so hard that people don't even dare to mess around. Although it is not a sure thing, at least the probability of successful invasion is much higher than that of Ancient One. In short, in one sentence, the safety level of the Earth with the Ancient One and the Earth without the Ancient One is not the same. Listening to Moyu's explanation, the two fell into silence at first. Then Wanda suddenly raised her head. So, in the end, whether it is the mysterious world or the material world, there is no real safety? You can say that. Moyu smiled and nodded. After all, isn't the so-called Marvel Omniverse exactly this kind of mess? No trouble? No disaster? World peace? Have you drunk too much fake wine? That is absolutely impossible. Understood. Pietro took a deep breath. No matter whether we choose to step into the mysterious side or not, the danger still exists, but we don't have to face it for the time being, or more directly, we are kept in the dark. In that case, at this point, Pietro and Wanda looked at each other. We choose to enter a world of mystery. It's better to face your fear than not knowing what happened and dying in an unknown way. No matter how bad the outcome is. Although both Wanda and Pietro long for a stable and comfortable pastoral life. But obviously, this option is probably not an option. Now that you know so much, can you really pretend that you don't know anything? I'm afraid you won't be able to sleep well at night, right? I was afraid that one day I would fall asleep and be affected by AoE inexplicably, and then never wake up again. Rather than doing this, it would be better to face your fears head on. Anyone who dies early or dies late is going to die anyway. Why not just be easier? Confirmed. Sure, you won't change? To not fix? Okay. Moyu stood up slightly, raised his hand gently, and 2 sling rings and 2 introductory books fell directly into their arms. Although you two are not following the same path, the introductory course is still inevitable. After you have finished reading the book in your hand and are able to fully understand its contents and be able to open the portal with the assistance of the sling ring, we will move on to the next course. Oh, by the way, Pietro, you are different from Wanda, you will have one more course. Pietro, who was looking at the sling ring and the book in his hand, was slightly stunned. He raised his head cautiously and asked, well, what additional course will I take? Simple, if it were you, it could be done easily. Easy? Pietro's eyes twitched, and an ominous premonition suddenly surged in his heart. Can you give me some hints? Hint? Moyu said with a smile. Isn't the Empire State Building at your feet beautiful? Then you just need to run back and forth every morning and evening, by climbing the stairs. Just let me die. Night, Coast Villa. Tony, who had been busy all afternoon, returned to his workbench. He lifted up his t-shirt and replaced the palladium element plate of the sexual reactor. Sir, I'm sorry, the deduction of the new element combination failed. We can't find a new element to replace the palladium element. It doesn't matter. If you fail, just fail. Tony's expression was a little depressed, but he didn't see much anxiety. Anyway, I still have many opportunities. It's just that the elements we discovered are not enough. I will find new elements that can be used. Sir, this possibility is almost zero. Almost zero. Tony heard the sound and laughed. Then you must underestimate me. JARVIS, I have made some very special friends. I like them very much. By the way, the data model I asked you to calculate last time has results. Yet? Sir, if you want to find new elements with this data model, IMHO, this is not realistic. Although it is estimated that only 60% of the project has been carried out, it can be roughly concluded that the final product of this type of model has extremely high conclusion of great harm. Tisk. Tony smacked his lips. JARVIS, Can you stop worrying about new elements? Sir, this is about your life and safety. I think you should be more careful. Hearing this, Tony's hand movements paused slightly. With thousands of thoughts running through his mind, he gently raised his head to look at the computer screen in front of him and said with a smile. Jarvis. I'm here, sir. How long do you think I can live without finding new elements to replace it? If Sir gives up using the Mark series armor. Don't. Tony shook his head and laughed. Let's continue to use it. I'm sorry, sir. According to the current rate of accumulation of toxins, you have less than 5 years left, and the last year will be very painful. Less than 5 years. Tony looked down at the purple lines spreading on his chest and next to the reactor, and said with a smile. Jarvis, how about I make you a bet? I don't think I'll fall down on this. Sir, judging from the current conditions, you have no possibility of winning. However, I want to lose. Oh, the curve of Tony's mouth became wider and wider. You can't bear to let me be your boss, right? I just don't want to change jobs. That's easy. Tony clapped his hands and said with a smile, just keep working for me. Thank you for your trust, sir. By the way, Jarvis, what time is it? 9:45, sir. That should be coming soon. Tony stood up from his seat. I have to take a shower, Jarvis. Don't embarrass me later. Sir, you'll know right away. As soon as he finished speaking, Tony hurried to the bathroom upstairs and took a very hasty shower. Pepper is not here now, and he seems to be having a hard time adapting. But he still tried his best to tidy up his appearance. Isn't this not bad? Tony smiled at himself in the mirror. Unfortunately, my hair was not completely dry, and there were thick dark circles on my face. Alas, seeing that he couldn't take care of it anymore, Tony sighed helplessly, gave up, and turned around to go downstairs. Pepper was not suitable to be present for what was going to be discussed tonight, otherwise he would have asked Pepper to dress him up more delicately. The time arrived at 10 o'clock. Tony, who was looking at his watch, looked up and saw a light flashing not far away in front of his eyes. Mo, you walked out of the portal on time. You say it's 10 o'clock, it's really 10 o'clock. You don't plan to be early for a second, but let me wait for a while. Seeing Mo Yu arrive, Tony teased softly, it would be nice to come. Mo Yu smiled and shook his head. We are bringing 2 newcomers in today, so there are a lot of things to do. Wait, are you going to introduce new people? Tony stopped smiling immediately, and the corners of his eyes twitched. Could the 2 newcomers you mentioned be the ones you mentioned before? That's right. Mo Yu shrugged, with a playful look in his eyes. They're the 2 brothers and sisters I mentioned before. Oh my gosh, Tony immediately raised his hands to cover his head. When the 2 of them succeed in their studies, I won't lose my head inexplicably, right? This is simply the worst news I've ever heard, it's terrible. He had seen Mo Yu's special and elusive magic. It's not easy to deal with someone quietly. It just so happened that these 2 people had a grudge against him. If you don't work hard, the possibility is not impossible. Mo Yu touched his chin and gave an inaccurate answer. Hiss, Tony suddenly gasped. Are you going to taste the consequences of the sins you have made? Although it would not be so easy to lose his life while wearing a battle armor, he couldn't wear the battle armor every second, right? Tony expressed his helplessness. He didn't think Mo Yu did it on purpose. If the other party wanted to harm him, he would have died a long time ago, and he could do it quietly, so why bother using others to do it? The palladium issue has not been resolved yet, but now there is another life-threatening incident? I can only say that I am unlucky, but it's not his style to just surrender. Ahem. Tony coughed lightly and rubbed his hands expectantly. Is it possible to let me in or something? I just plan to use it to protect myself, at least to leave open the possibility of reaching a settlement with them. Anyone who can be taken note of by Mo Yu and take him to teach him is definitely a good talent with good talent. If he doesn't hurry up, his good days may not be long. Although he does not solve the problem of palladium, he will not have many good days ahead. But the problem is clearly solvable. The worst-case scenario was to ask Rimulu to exchange a few bottles of unscientific recovery medicine as a safeguard, and then perform surgery to remove the shrapnel. In this way, the problem of palladium poisoning can also be solved. This isn't even a problem anymore. Right now, these 2 twins who have a grudge against him and want his life are the greatest danger. Well, Mo Yu touched his chin. If that's what you think, then I guess you won't be able to survive that time. Think about Wanda's terrifying growth rate and potential. Tony wants to fight Wanda during her growth spurt or something. It's probably unrealistic. So, Tony's brows twitched. Am I dead? It depends on yourself. I hate the Riddler. Tony sighed helplessly. But I understand the meaning. Give me some time to prepare mentally, okay? You can figure it out best. Moyu smiled and nodded, then raised his hand and waved lightly, and a sealing box with the shield logo fell next to Tony. This is the most important part of the inheritance your father left you. It contains the most precious gift your father left you, a new element that can replace the palladium element. Find some time to take a look. What? Tony squinted his eyes and looked at the storage box next to him, his expression a little complicated. I know, I will take a look when I have time. Although it seemed a bit unlikely, Moyu didn't need to lie to himself. He said there is, so there is a high probability that it is. But how did his father discover new elements in that backward industrial era that even he couldn't discover now? This undoubtedly refreshed Tony's understanding of Howard. And, a gift. How did he know that he was facing this kind of dilemma and gave him a solution in advance? Could it be that his father also has the ability to predict the future? No, that's unlikely. Perhaps he was too forward-thinking, but due to the backwardness of industry at that time, he could only leave it to him as an inheritance, right? He has been dead for almost 20 years and still wants to teach himself a lesson? Should I say thank you, or should I say thank you? Forget it. Tony shook his head and threw away all other things. Tony looked at Moyu. Let's talk about what's going on between us. I'm curious about what you want me to do for you. After all, you are outstanding in all aspects. I really can't think of anything that can be difficult for you. It's life technology, genetic technology. Moyu didn't hide anything, and directly stated the biggest problem that troubled him. I have no achievements in this area, and I can even be called a layman who has not yet started. So I came to find you. Hearing this, Tony did not respond immediately, but frowned quietly. Obviously thinking or worrying about something. After a while, Tony said in a deep voice. Moyu, let me ask in advance, does the life technology you are talking about involve human experiments? No. Moyu shook his head for a while. I only need theoretical knowledge, not so-called human experiments. Human experiments? What low-level operation is that? Even if it is the same mutant spider, it may not turn into Spider-Man if it bites different people. Not everyone who is exposed to gamma radiation can turn into the Hulk. Everyone's genetic sequence is different to some extent. As long as there is a little difference, the results obtained from different individuals must be absolutely different. He only needs to obtain theoretical knowledge, and through the screening of dark plane gene sequences, he can transform it into the one that is most suitable for him, and then apply it in weapons. There is no need for human experiments or anything like that. I can rest assured that. After receiving Moyu's affirmative reply, Tony relaxed slightly. To be honest, I haven't done much in-depth research on this aspect. You have to give me some time, probably a day or two to a week. Besides, you have to tell me what project you want to research, right? You have to give me some templates, otherwise I won't be able to start. This is simple. Moyu raised his hand and snapped his fingers, and a test tube containing blue blood and a test tube containing red blood appeared in front of Tony's eyes. You should study this first. This is what Moyu got. No, borrowed from the S.H.I.E.L.D. secret laboratory. What is this? Tony frowned and looked at the test tubes in his hands, then picked up the blue blood test tube and asked. I can understand the red one, but the blue, alien blood? Yes. Moyu nodded calmly. The owner of the blue blood is called Skrull. It is the blood of a special race in the galaxy. Its ability is imitation, more accurately, copying. It can completely copy the other party's physiological characteristics and short-term memory, and even the DNA sequence can be perfectly reproduced. Although it's not unlimited, it can still be called terrifying. The Skrull's copying ability is indeed very powerful, but it also has its limitations. First, they need to see the target to be copied with the naked eye, and the copied target must be alive. In addition, they cannot completely replicate genes that are too powerful. Other abilities that are not based on genes cannot be replicated. In addition, there are also locked and shielded ones, which they cannot sexually copy. So Moyu is not worried that the Skrulls can copy him. If you want to copy his super gene, you must first pass the Dark Plane certification. Obviously, the Skrulls couldn't make it, on shit. Listening to Moyu's description, Tony immediately started swearing. He understood immediately how dangerous this race was. After a moment of silence, Tony asked worriedly, Moyu, let me ask first, are there any Skrulls on the Earth now? The kind with malicious intent. Definitely, Moyu nodded slightly. Not only are there are many. They are in SHIELD, Hydra, the US military, and their members are also members of the Congress. The United States is just a hodgepodge now. What? There are bedbugs. Pa, oh my god. Tony slapped his forehead heavily. Please let me take it easy first. This news is a bit explosive, so I have to take it slow. How many minutes has it been? The information that came out of Moyu's mouth was so shocking that he didn't know what to say. Sure enough, this world was as strange as he thought. Is this still the world he knew? Shit, after coming back to his senses, Tony suddenly raised his head. Jarvis, you didn't hear anything just now, right? Yes, sir, I did not hear the chat between you and Mr. Moyu. Do you need to turn on the meeting record memo? You know, Jarvis. Understood, sir. Tony was still a little worried and turned to look at Moyu. Make sure no one else knows about our conversation today, right? If this news gets out, there will definitely be a big earthquake. Tony had to guard. Aliens are almost taking over the United States. It's absolutely terrifying. Definitely. Moyu gave a guarantee. At least no one in the material world can hear the content of our chat. As for the mysterious side, Moyu can't guarantee this. There are so many weird abilities. How to prevent it? Tisk. Tony smacked his lips. If I had known that what you said today would be so exciting, I should have prepared more. Skrulls. Aliens. It has penetrated into all aspects of the United States and has almost replaced the locals as the masters. Moreover, the Nazi Hydra organization that was wiped out still exists. The so-called Jarvis that he had contacted before was actually Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D.? Superboy. No, the Avengers Project. Could it be HYDRA's plan to rule the Earth? Shit, I almost fell for it and became a member of Hydra. This bastard is really insidious. After a long silence, Tony sorted out the complicated thoughts in his mind. The current situation was far more complicated than he had imagined before. It can be said that one move affects the whole body. Moreover, even if he came forward to expose this, would anyone really believe what he said? I'm afraid that before he takes any action, his villa will be directly destroyed by Tomahawk missiles, right? It's a bit difficult. Tony touched his chin and asked softly, Moyu, what do you think I should do next to break this situation? No matter what Hydra and the Skrulls are up to, it's definitely not a good thing. Tony said he couldn't sit still a little. Sure enough, the more you know, the more problems you have, and the more troubles come one after another. It would be much easier if he didn't care about these things. But he couldn't care less. He couldn't help but watch all this happen after knowing the inside story. It seems that there is a source of motivation driving him. It's simple. Moyu's lips curled up slightly. I do have a way, but you can't do it now. Easy? I can't do it. Tony expressed his disbelief. Tell me what you can do first. Kill them all. Moyu said two words lightly. The simplest way to solve a birth problem is to eliminate it at the root. Kill all Hydra members and kill all Skrulls with evil intentions. Pretty simple, right? Tony's expression suddenly froze, and he decisively admitted defeat. Okay, you're right, I really can do it. Let's not talk about the fact that he doesn't know the other party's detailed information. Just where they were now made Tony feel helpless. Please, those are generals and congressmen, can they be killed if they want to? Enemy the entire United States government? Even if he has the ability to expose, he dares to take action, but, can he fight? Although the strength of the Mark armor is high enough, it is still useless in the face of missiles equipped with tactical nuclear warheads. He has many scruples, but will the other party have such scruples? It's numb. What kind of simplicity is this? Oh, by the way, this is a simple answer, probably based on Moyu's own answer. If this guy takes action, yes, it will probably be done in less than an hour. And it doesn't leave any clues. Thinking of this, Tony looked at Moyu angrily. If you want to say that I'm weak, just say so. There's no need to beat around the bush like that. I know I'm weak, right? Is it my fault? Moyu spread his hands, his face full of innocence. If he couldn't beat him, I really wanted to punch him in the face. Tony was furious. He simply vented his anger on the Australian blue lobster in front of him, and his mouth was full of oil. Taking out a napkin and wiping his mouth, temporarily putting aside these troublesome questions, Tony looked at another tube of red blood. This one. Tony said curiously. Since the Skrull's blood is so special, this shouldn't be easy, right? It's really not easy. Moyu picked up the lobster in his hand and said softly. The name of its owner is Carol Danvers, with the title Captain Marvel. She is an old acquaintance of the black braised egg you met before, and is the source of the Avengers' plan. Well, in terms of ability, it can walk on the surface of the sun and conduct super light flights. I always feel that Carol is quite similar to him in every aspect. If it were Danvers in the comics, he would be able to reach the level of super single. But in the MCU, Carol in the form of the explosive binary star has just barely passed the threshold of level Godfather and has been weakened a bit. Oh, Tony's eyes lit up. In what way did she do it? Similar to super soldier serum or something? It's infinite gems. Moyu raised his hand and slid his index finger gently, and 5 lifelike gems appeared in the form of projection. At the beginning of the birth of the universe, there were 6 special singularities. With the birth of the universe, the 6 singularities turned into 6 infinite stones. Each infinite stone has a specific attribute. Time, space, reality, mind, soul, and... Having said this, Moyu slowly spread his right hand, and the purple power gem shone with light. Power. The upper limit of each gem is level single universe. When 6 gems are gathered together, they can reach a level beyond the single universe. Well, this is a division of strength levels based on my personal impression. It's not particularly accurate, it can only roughly cover a range. All you need to know is that the power of 6 rough stones can easily destroy and reshape a single universe. The universe we live in can only be regarded as a large toy in front of these 6 rough stones. Carol Danvers' power is obtained from part of the energy of the space gem. Oh, by the way, the gift your father prepared for you is actually the isotope of the original power stone, the new element closest to infinite energy, the scientific perpetual motion machine? Looking at the scene in front of him, Tony took a long time to come to his senses. Then he lowered his head and looked at the test tubes on the table, and then looked at the sealing box on the ground. I feel like I might die suddenly. Tony raised his hand and rubbed his face vigorously, sighing. I can't sleep. I won't be able to sleep for the next month. My heart is stirring. How could he possibly sleep when there were so many things he was interested in front of him? Is this the rhythm that will lead to his sudden death? But Tony said he was excited. It's a challenge only when it's difficult, right? I feel a little warm-blooded after a long absence. Calm down. Moyu shook his head slightly. Don't get too excited. Your top priority now is to save your life and replace the palladium element in the reactor. You can take your time with other things. Indeed, Tony glanced down at his chest. Although it's just a matter of moving your fingers to you, it did save my life. I owe you another favor, plus these things. I owe you more than I can count. No, am I working for you again now? That's right, Moyu was startled, then a smile appeared on his lips. Just say so. Shit, late at night. Studio under the villa area. Tony, who was knocking on the wall with a hammer, shook his aching hand. Hey, let me tell you, is it really okay for you to just sit there and scroll through the screen? Would you like to get up and move around? No. Looking at the scene in front of him, Moyu shook his head without hesitation. It's time to exercise your physical fitness. After all, you suffered a lot before. Plus, I had a little windfall. What? Tony was stunned and asked curiously. What did you find again? Jarvis. What did you show him just now? Sir, an online video in which the protagonist is a green beast. Green beast? Tony raised his eyebrows, dropped the hammer in his hand and walked over quickly. The location in the picture is roughly inside a college. A green monster rushed left and right, beating the encircling military to a pulp. Looking at the infrasonic cannon that was directly crushed by the big man, Tony couldn't help but complain. Tisk. They are still using my products. They're obviously old items that have been phased out, but those guys from the military still use them to embarrass themselves? I seem to have an impression of this guy. Jarvis. Who is this? This is Dr. Bruce Banner, sir. The one that got gamma rays? Tony nodded slightly, finally remembering it, and then turned to look at Moyu. Are you interested in him? It's a bit. Moyu nodded. But it's not necessary, it's just that my hands are itchy suddenly. I have been in this world for more than half a year, and the number of times I have taken action is limited to the one at the terrorist base in Afghanistan. The rest of the time, there was almost no action. Yesterday I watched a battle that went through many twists and turns in the live broadcast room. With the power gem in hand, it was inevitable that he would have a fight with someone to stretch his muscles. Definitely, the most important thing is to verify the actual combat performance of the two combat engines. The progress of the space-time engine is relatively slow. After all, it involves more complex space and time. The creation of the elemental combat engine was already halfway through, much faster than he expected. Among them, the role of power gems is indispensable. Unfortunately, the genetic engine's analysis progress of power gems is as slow as a turtle crawling, and it also takes up more than half of the genetic engine's computing power. Without the support of celestial supercomputing, it would still be difficult to rely on oneself alone. I remember the reason why this happened was because the military was researching the super soldier serum. Tony touched his chin with a strange expression. Strictly speaking, this is a mess made by the military themselves. I don't want to clean it up for them. Besides, this guy is very good at hiding. The military has been looking for him for so long, but they still haven't caught him. However, this big green guy is indeed very strong. The force of each punch is at least 30 tons. And this is not the limit of his strength. Facing this kind of monster with strange strength, extremely terrifying physical fitness, and ignoring most thermal weapon attacks, Tony subconsciously simulated the scene of Mark III fighting Hulk. Preliminary calculations indicate that he may be dismantled to pieces and cannot be put back together. The best outcome can only be to escape in embarrassment with the help of flight. This guy seems to be totally unbeatable right now, right? Thinking of this, Tony subconsciously looked at Moyu next to him. This guy is also a monster. Putting aside the perverted infinite stone in his hand, could Mo Yuxian beat the big green guy in the picture? Probably. After all, didn't this guy focus on this big guy because his hands were itchy? If you can't beat him and still keep an eye on him, he can't be a masochist, right? It doesn't look like it. Can you take down this big guy without using that abnormal rough stone? Tony finally asked this question, because he does have a little bit of curiosity. In addition, I would like to know some details about Moyu. There are many ways to take it down. Moyu lowered his head and thought for a moment. But a duel of pure physical strength? I haven't tried it yet. It's probably about the same. If it were the comic book version of the Invincible Hulk, he wouldn't be able to fight through pure strength. After all, this guy has the setting that the angrier he gets, the stronger he becomes. But the Hulk in front of him also inherited this setting, but he has an upper limit. Not only does his strength have an upper limit, but his physique is not too abnormal. Hatred can break through its defenses. Not only can Thanos break through its defenses with his bare hands, but he can also use a set of military punches to make Hulk a little autistic. Although he was in a weak state when his defense was broken by hatred. But that was not the case when I was beaten to the point of autism by Thanos. This version of Hulk's performance is somewhat unsatisfactory. Without using the Power Stone, there is no problem in fighting him. As for whether you can win, you have to play to know. They are all perverts. How can a human body possess the power of a monster? Tony complained secretly in his heart, and then said, "Want me to help you find him?" "No need." Moyu raised his hand and waved, and the projection of the streets of Harlem, New York, suddenly appeared in front of their eyes. "They're here." Looking at the scene in front of him, Tony suddenly stopped thinking. The military has already entered the scene. If you go to cause trouble at this time, I feel that there is a high probability that they will find various reasons to want you, and they want to imprison you in the laboratory team for research. Then let's see if they have the courage. Moyu shrugged nonchalantly. Besides, even if you have the courage, you have to be able to do it. I don't mind killing a general or directly destroying a military region. What kind of devil is this? Tony took a deep breath and observed a second of silence for the military. Then he said, "You don't mind if I watch the show, right?" "Okay." Moyu nodded, lightly snapped his fingers, and a bag of serum suddenly appeared on the table. This is the fair. Although it may not be used, there are two different concepts. Not using it and not having it. Do you really think of me as a coolie? Looking at the extra bag of serum on the table, Tony glanced at Moyu evilly. Does this guy regard this as his private research laboratory? Although he was indeed a little interested. But with Zuyu in front, the amount of this serum seems to be a little insufficient. He would rather study Carol and the Skrulls as soon as possible. After all, a kaleidoscopic shapeshift, one involving the space gem. New York, Harlem. Bruce injected the antidote with the help of Mr. Blue and his girlfriend Betty. He successfully suppressed the appearance of Hulk, and the excited Bruce even gave himself a few slaps to celebrate. Facts have proved that Mr. Land's antidote is effective. Now that he's overcome with emotion, he no longer turns into a big green guy. But unfortunately, this situation did not last long. Hulk became weak and fell into a deep sleep due to the injection of the antidote. The unsuspecting Bruce was easily put down by the military with a tranquilizer bomb. At the same time, Blonsky, who was injected with the defective version of the super soldier serum, and whose obsession with becoming stronger was extremely heightened, paid attention to the Banner serum. Under duress with a gun, Mr. Land, who was originally unwilling to listen to Banner and destroy the serum, seemed to have found an opportunity. With great cooperation, Blonsky was injected with Banner's serum. After being injected with the serum, Banner's serum reacted with the super soldier serum, further destroying Blonsky's sanity. The brave and skilled soldier turned into hatred at this moment. Blonsky, who transformed into an abomination, only had the thought of defeating Hulk in his mind, and began its journey of destruction, intending to attract the attention of the military until Hulk was lured to fight him. Evil thoughts will inevitably sow evil consequences. If you rashly come into contact with a power that you cannot control, you will eventually become a slave to the power. Blonsky is a perfect example. After the abomination tried to show up, the weaponry and troops originally used to deal with Hulk were used against the abomination. But obviously, it didn't work. If Hulk's destructive power is limited by half Banner, then Abomination has no scruples. In just the first round of fighting, all the troops brought by General Ross were declared dead. The entire street turned into a sea of fire at this moment. Ross knew that the army could not defeat a monster of Hulk's level, so he agreed to Banner's request and put Banner on the battlefield. And at the same time, on the roof of the building at the end of the street, the secret door opened. Moyu and fully armed Tony walked out slowly. Damn, it's only been less than 50 seconds. Looking at the messy streets, the raging hatred, and the pedestrians still running away on the road, Tony's expression changed slightly. In just a short period of time wearing the Mark armor, the battle has turned into a one-sided massacre? Is Ross a shit-eater? I'm going to try first. If I can't beat you, you can take over. As soon as he finished speaking, Tony swooped down in the Mark armor. With the current force value of Mark's armor, it is completely impossible to defeat Abomination. But that doesn't stop him from wanting to give it a try. Seeing Abomination lifting a car and intending to throw it at passers-by, Tony raised his hand and fired. Although there was nothing wrong with hating him, he still stopped what he was doing and turned to look at Tony, who was suspended in midair. Hey, ugly thing, your father Tony is here. Tony raised his hand and made an international friendly gesture towards Hatred. Come and hit me, you idiot. Iron Man? If you are looking for death, I will help you. With a look of hatred on his face, he hit Tony with the car in his hand. Although I haven't seen Hulk yet, it would be a good choice to kill a superhero first as an appetizer. Consider it a warm-up. Tony used the Mark armor to dodge the attack, then raised his hand and fired another shot, still not forgetting his bad mouth. What are you fighting, ugly guy? This accuracy really makes me feel sad for your father. Roar. Being provoked by Tony one after another, the hatred that had little reason left was suddenly overwhelmed by anger. After letting out a violent roar, he raised his feet and stared at the ground before leaping up. He clenched his fists and planned to give Tony a supreme slam dunk. Kind of stupid. Tony quickly rose into the air, causing the hateful dunk to miss. What do you think you want to do to compete with me in aerial maneuvers? Could it be that the cerebellum has atrophied, or has it all turned into muscles? Relying on the air superiority of the Mark armor. While Tony was attracting Hate's attention, he was also constantly stimulating him to prevent the other party from directly leaving the battle to harm the poor civilians who had not had time to evacuate. But perhaps having learned his lesson, Abomination didn't mind attacking Tony with leaping lunges. Instead, he lowered his body and picked up all the objects around him that could be used as weapons, transformed into a trebuchet, and launched a long-range attack. Looking at the cars, motorcycles, manhole covers, fire hydrants, Tony could only dodge constantly. At the same time, the building next to it suddenly suffered a disaster, with holes of different file sizes smashed out by hatred. Tony said there was nothing he could do. He can destroy small objects with one cannon. Although large objects can be destroyed with missiles, there is not much inventory in Mark's armor. Once used up, it will be gone. He didn't want to be hit. Even if Mark's armor could eliminate part of the power contained in it, the rest would definitely be enough for him to bear. If you keep it for a long time, you will lose it. Tony had scruples, but not hatred. After just 11 seconds of confrontation, Tony was hit in the abdomen by a fire hydrant. Huge amounts of force hit him and he flew backwards, directly embedded in the building next to him. Really handsome for no more than 10 seconds. Oh, hiss. Tony took a breath and said, "Damn it, you really can't get hit. I feel like I'm going to vomit out the dinner I just ate." "Sir, the monitoring shows that there are many contusions." "I know." He struggled to climb out of the pit and barely escaped the attack of the hateful evil spirit. Tony took off in the Mark armor at high speed, stumbled and landed next to Moyu, clutching his abdomen and leaning against the wall, and immediately took off his mask. Although the Mark armor has its own filtering device, it is not included in the helmet. If you really spit it out, your face will be muddy when the time comes. "Oh, this is absolutely unacceptable. I'm convinced," Tony said with a slumped face. "I'll pass the baton to you. I have to rest or I'm really going to vomit. The power of this thing is really outrageous. I almost suffered internal injuries. The anti-shock system of the Mark armor needs to be upgraded." Roar. Before Moyu could respond, the hateful roars came from far away, and the hideous and ugly body jumped high and rushed towards the two of them. "Why are you yelling so loudly? It's so noisy." Moyu took out his ears. The dark alloy rod appeared in his hand and extended quickly. The other end suddenly became thicker and heavier. He aimed it at the abomination that had just jumped up and struck it in the head. Dang! Boom! The hatred in front of him was directly smashed into the ground by this terrifying force. The higher you jump, the harder you hit. The sound is quite crisp. It's a good head. This should be a wake-up call, right? Watching this scene, Tony also laughed out loud. Most of the depression in his heart was instantly relieved, and he also held a second of silence for hatred. "Now it's your turn to be embarrassed, ugly guy." He didn't think that Moyu would be able to kill this ugly thing at all. Although he didn't know the depth of Moyu, the power gem he held in his hand was completely beyond the power of the hatred in front of him. Tony expressed that he was relieved. Now it was his turn to watch the show. The probe looked forward. A rather dramatic scene immediately unfolded. Tony subconsciously lifted his visor to record the scene. Banner, who was smashed down by a transport plane from the sky, had transformed into Hulk and emerged from the ground. And the hatred that had just been hit into the ground by Moyu's stick also emerged. The two prominent guys looked at each other confusedly and let out an angry roar in unison. Roar, *2. I thought that when the two big guys met, they might have a fight first. But what happened next was beyond Tony's expectation. Hulk crawled out of the ground and glanced at hatred, rolling his eyes in disgust, but he had no intention of doing anything. He and Banner are of the same mind, and Hulk knows how Banner feels about him. But this time, Banner completely broke Hulk's heart. So even though Banner had no choice but to transform at the moment when his life was in danger, he had no intention of solving the trouble Banner caused. The always belligerent Hulk, for the first time, didn't want to fight. Hatred, who had always wanted to fight Hulk before, just glared at Hulk after standing up, and then raised his head. He stared fiercely at the roof of the building. Seems quite vindictive. Why don't these two big guys fight? Seeing Hulk and Abomination making no move, Tony felt a little strange. In this situation, shouldn't we have a hard fight first? Roar. When he saw Tony's head, he suddenly became filled with hatred. The scar healed and he forgot about the pain. With a roar, he kicked off his feet and jumped up again. Then he was faced with another blow from Moyu. Dang! Click! The clash of gold and iron sounded, followed by the sound of cracking bones, and Abomination was unsurprisingly knocked down by a stick again. It's just that this stick seemed to accidentally break the opponent's skull? Tisk tisk tisk. What a pitiful little thing. Seeing this, Tony couldn't help but shake his head and turn to look at Moyu. Why do you beat it like a whack-a-mole? When it fought me, it was obviously not hopelessly stupid. It knew how to hit me with things. I don't know. Moyu, who was holding the dark alloy rod, shook his head. You think it was an accident just now? Or maybe you didn't see me? Tisk. Tony smacked his lips and complained. I feel like I was knocked stupid by your first stick. It's possible. Moyu nodded lightly, then jumped down from the roof. He stepped back on the Abomination that was struggling to crawl out of the ground. Then he looked up at Hulk, who had an unusually calm expression. To be honest, it is indeed unusual for Hulk to be in such a calm state. A bit strange. HMPH, sensing Moyu's gaze, Hulk snorted softly, his eyes wandering around Moyu's body, and the powerful muscles in his body began to gradually tighten. Obviously, Hulk didn't understand whether Moyu was an enemy or a friend. However, the opponent's aura made Hulk subconsciously alert. His expression gradually changed from calm to vicious. "Don't worry, Hulk, we can be friends." Moyu had a smile on his lips and nodded lightly. "Friend?" Hulk was obviously taken aback and scratched his head in confusion. Apart from that woman, this was the first time someone showed kindness to him. Definitely, Hulk knew that the reason why the woman was kind to her was just because of Banner. If he wasn't Banner, he would probably run as far as he could see him. "Yes, friend." Moyu slowly stretched out his left hand that was clenched into a fist. Compared to other beings with complicated hearts, Hulk is undoubtedly much simpler. Just like a child with an innocent heart, if you are nice to him, he will like you. Hulk opened his eyes and looked at it. The expression on his face gradually calmed down, and then he slowly stretched out his right hand. He looked cautious, wanting to touch but worried. Time passed by minute by second, one big and one small, and the two completely disproportionate fists finally collided lightly. Hulk watched this scene in a daze, somewhat novel. This feeling seems unprecedented. Here's a gift." Seeing Hulk's dazed look, Moyu raised his hand, and a recovery potion appeared in his hand. "Gift?" Hulk blinked and carefully picked up the recovery medicine in Moyu's palm with 2 fingers. The expression on his face seemed a little happy. "Hulk, I like it, it's for drinking." Moyu smiled and said, "You're still a little weak now, so you'll be fine after using it. You can drink it and apply it externally."
It's a pity. Hulk felt it was a pity to drink it, but he didn't seem to have anywhere to put it on his body, and, even if he kept it, Banner, who didn't know it, might not keep it.
"Then drink it, right? Topical application is too wasteful." Without thinking, Hulk stuffed the entire bottle into his mouth, chewed it twice and then swallowed it. Moyu didn't even have time to stop it. "Huh." Hulk clenched his fists with a surprised expression. "Hulk, strong. The slight feeling of weakness that I had before has completely disappeared." Moyu lowered his head and looked at the hole in the ground where there had been no movement for a long time. After looking at the cracks on the ground not far away, he smiled and said, "Hulk, let's play ball." "Okay." Hulk, who had no idea what a sport was, wouldn't even refuse. "Because my friends want to play, Hulk wants to play too." "Wait a minute, I'll find a stronger ball." The corner of Moyu's mouth curled up slightly, and in the blink of an eye, his figure was already on the street. The dark alloy rod in his hand instantly pierced the ground and extended rapidly. The seemingly extremely hard dark alloy rod suddenly turned into a rope after it came into contact with the target, tying up the ankles of Abomination, who was trying to escape through the underground pipe. Reaching out and tugging, the dark alloy rod retracted, ignoring the hateful struggle, and forcibly pulled it out of the ground. "Hulk, catch the ball." Moyu raised his hand and threw his hatred into the air. Before landing, the dark alloy rod in his hand swept out and hit the Abomination directly in the abdomen, sending it flying towards Hulk's location. Seeing this scene, Hulk's eyes lit up and he became more playful. Play. The moment when hatred fell, Hulk took a step forward, raised his foot and kicked Hate's face. Bang! There was a muffled sound, and the hatred that had not yet landed flew towards Moyu's direction again. Tony couldn't bear to look at this scene. Cruel. Roar. Shouts of excitement echoed constantly in Harlem. 2 figures, one large and one small, stood at 2 ends. One was punching and kicking, and the other was holding a long stick, specially designed for pumping. However, there was a faint light emerging from the long stick from time to time. During the play between the two, a rather burly figure was constantly flying from the street to the end of the street, and then from the end of the street to the street. Poor Abomination was completely unable to fight back under the combined efforts of the two, and was swatted around like a badminton. Many people watched this dramatic scene from a distance, including General Ross in the gunship in the sky, Tony on the top floor, and the people who should have run, but now suddenly stopped to watch the show. It has to be said that human curiosity is endless. The person who eats melons has been engraved in my genetic instinct. Even when such a disaster occurs, there are still people watching from a distance. Neither Moyu nor Hulk care about the reactions of outsiders. Mo-yu had a lot of fun playing it, and he was very comfortable with the basic use of the elemental engine. Each attack had different elemental changes. As for Hulk, he seems to be extremely happy. He has never had so much fun before. Moreover, in the process of playing around, the power of Hulk's every blow actually increased unknowingly. This made Mo-yu feel a little strange. In other words, as long as Hulk's emotions fluctuate, Original's power will increase to varying degrees. Doesn't it have to be an emotion of anger? In this case, when the powers of Hulk and Mo-yu are gradually increasing. A certain limit is gradually exceeded. Abomination's recovery ability could no longer keep up with the two's destruction speed. Under Hulk's excited fist, Abomination's already limp body suddenly exploded. Hulk's excited expression froze as he looked at the hatred that was shattered by his fist. He looked at the hatred that was shattered on the ground with a blank look on his face, and scratched his head in confusion. Toy, was it broken by myself? The fat is in the fire. Oh, God, seeing this scene, Tony upstairs twitched his lips slightly and complained. Hey, big guy, you got into trouble, you know that? Roar. After hearing Tony's complaints, Hulk suddenly raised his head and glared at Tony with a vicious look. It seems that if you dare to say another word, I will beat you. Okay, my bad. Tony was a little timid and took a step back decisively. He couldn't even deal with the Abomination, let alone the big green guy who was even more powerful than the Abomination. If he had been punched by this guy, he would probably have died young. Can't afford to offend. At least until he finds a way to deal with the big guy. For example, building a large mecha. Seeing Tony being shouted back by him, Hulk curled his lips in disdain and snorted, showing his contemptuous attitude. Seeing that he was despised by Hulk, Tony's face was not only depressed, but also secretly angry in his heart. Just wait for me, sooner or later I will want you to look good. Ignoring Tony on the top floor, Hulk lowered his head and walked in the direction of Mo-yu with small steps like a child who had done something wrong. Sir, what should we do now? On the armed helicopter, the flight attendant looked blankly at General Ross beside him. Are all our people here? Where are the weapons? General Ross said with a darkened face. Already armed and on standby outside the block. Wait for my order and be ready to attack at any time. Understood, sir, the troops are on standby. Rose's somewhat gloomy eyes stared directly at Hulk on the block. As a 3-star general, he was completely embarrassed today. What if we don't get the place back? Hulk must be arrested, and so must the man who appeared out of nowhere. Although Bronsky has also turned into a monster, he is still a colonel of the American Army. This is a fact. Those who participated in the killing of a U.S. military colonel must face trial. If he couldn't catch anyone, how would he explain why he made such a big fuss? Civilians can fool around, but those political opponents are not vegetarians. As long as Hulk can be captured, none of this will be a problem. As for whether the arrest can be successful, this time he went out of his way to mobilize a total of more than 5,000 troops. A tank battalion, an artillery battalion, and an armed helicopter battalion. Isn't it possible to win this? When the deployment of troops is completed, Hulk will not be able to fly out even if he grows wings. Tony, who vaguely realized something was wrong through JARVIS, frowned and immediately sent a private message to Mo-yu. Rose is going to be serious, don't worry, it's best to take Hulk and leave as soon as possible. On the street, Mo-yu, who was having a simple conversation with Hulk, raised his eyebrows. Dark eyes glanced over and easily understood the surrounding situation. Hey, Hulk. Mo-yu raised his head slightly and said, that's almost it for today. Some bad guys are here. Let's play again when we have a chance. Hulk, whose senses were relatively sharp, looked around and bared his teeth. Hulk, smash. The meaning is obvious, if there are bad guys, just smash them all. Mo-yu shook his head slightly and looked up at the armed helicopter that had been floating in the sky. There's a woman up there who will stop you. Hulk was stunned for a moment, then raised his head, his expression becoming a little complicated for a moment. That human woman is the woman who cares about Banner, and the woman who Banner cares about. If she were around, it would really be hard to smash it. Banner will stop him. Women, disgusting. Banner, annoying. Hulk muttered somewhat glumly. Okay. Mo-yu shook his head dumbfounded, turned around and raised his hand, and the 3-meter-high portal suddenly opened. Let's go. It's not like we'll never see each other again. If Hulk wants to come, I'll welcome you to my house anytime, Hulk, as a guest. After hearing this, Hulk's frustrated expression calmed down a little. He followed Mo Yu step by step, and disappeared on the street in an instant under General Ross's eyes wide-open expression. Where's the human? Where's Hulk? Sir, they disappeared. Look, find them for me, find them quickly, Ross roared like crazy. 2 living targets disappeared right under his nose. How could he accept this kind of thing? The farce in New York's Harlem began to unfold the next day. The posts can't be banned and the videos can't be deleted. It wasn't originally so popular. But, who let Iron Man, who has been in the limelight during this period, also appear in the scene? The more people follow, the better. The excited people were rioting for half a month. Finally, under the influence of some mysterious force, General Ross's deputy went to the military court for trial, and then gradually faded out of people's sight. And Banner, the initiator of all this, disappeared without a trace. The military can no longer keep track of Hulk or even Banner's movements. But Mo Yu and Tony, who were involved halfway, had nothing wrong with them. He was even once regarded as a superhero by the public. After all, they were the ones who stopped the monster from raging and saved the people of Harlem. Under public opinion, at least on the surface, it was fine. As for how many people privately include him on what list, it is unknown. Some people have a hard time, but Tony and Mo Yu lived a very fulfilling life. While Mo Yu was giving out many good things, Tony had not been in the laboratory every day for the past half-month. Study the advanced series of Mark Armour in the morning and noon. In the evening, I concentrated on studying the 2 serums. In order not to let those messy things interfere with him, Tony even handed over the position of CEO of Stark Company to Pepper. Facts have proved that letting Pepper be the CEO has indeed saved Tony a lot of trouble. Such a big company, under Pepper's management, can be said to be in good order. The market capitalization is growing in a steady trend every day. Tony, on the other hand, conducts research work alone with the assistance of Jarvis. The other side. Mo Yu was not idle either. Just a week ago, Wanda and Pietro had completed their introductory homework. With the help of Sling Ring, they both mastered the opening of the secret door and officially entered the door of the magician group. And within a week after that, Mo Yu successfully verified his conjecture based on the raw Power Stone. Using the Power Stone as a substitute, he successfully helped Wanda and Pietro complete the activation procedures of their respective abilities. The initial forms of Scarlet Witch Wanda and Speedster Quicksilver have taken shape. After that, the 2 took completely different paths. Wanda continued to study magic and was exposed to systematic learning plans. Pietro's focus shifted to training his own body. Although when using super ability, it will form a super stance to protect itself, so that the user will not be torn apart by the extreme speed. But when launching an attack, the interaction force cannot be completely offset by the super stance. Moreover, using super ability consumes Pietro's own physical strength and energy. Without a powerful body, even with super ability, it cannot reach its true limit. So, there was a very strange picture. Wanda sat quietly reading a book, flipping through it from time to time, and then fell into deep thought. She held a scarlet energy body in her right hand, which constantly produced some special changes with her thoughts. And Pietro was running as fast as he could in that infinitely extended space, under the high pressure of the gravity field. One is elegant and dignified, the other is sweaty. Polarized belongs to yes. Under night. In the backyard kitchen, Wanda was holding a spatula and humming an unknown tune, cooking today's dinner with great care. Well, it was Wanda's idea to build a kitchen. Mo Yu didn't have any objections to this, especially after trying the Chinese food that Wanda specially learned. After Mo Yu nodded in agreement, Wanda and Pietro finished the entire kitchen in just half a day. Pietro is responsible for moving a wide variety of materials and equipment with super ability. Wanda, on the other hand, is responsible for building the kitchen, well, directly using magic. I have to say that Wanda is indeed outstanding in her magical attainments. After systematic learning, the opponent's ability is well demonstrated, especially in this aspect of life use. Today, Wanda can be said to have extremely high attainments. Use magic to wash clothes, use magic to clean furniture, use magic to clean, and even use magic to eliminate kitchen waste, etc. All I can say is that Wanda understands life. As for using origin magic power to do this, is it overkill? This has to be divided into people. On the other side, Moyu was lying on the recliner as usual. He has not been idle in the past half-month. After testing with Abomination as a guinea pig, the elemental engine has not only been completed, but has also been loaded and put into use, and has been integrated into one of its own abilities. The development progress of the space-time engine has also reached the halfway point. The remaining half will have to wait until the Ancient One magician fulfills his promise and lends him the time gem later this year. Although the Power Stone can also be used, it is not as specialized as the Time Stone. Start with the Power Stone and build the foundation with Cagliostro. But if you want to completely complete the construction of the space-time engine, the Time Rough Stone is indispensable. In addition, after this half-month, Wanda's serious cooperation, Moyu came up with the idea of building a concept rewriter again, and started directly rewriting high-level concepts. But so far, it has only built an empty framework. Retrieve own status, searching. Searching completed, close black lens bracket. Name. Moyu biological age, 20 biological sex, male. Current genetic version. Fighting the victorious Buddha and Kamigawa beast body, close black lens bracket. Kamigawa beast body. Completely immune to ordinary thermal weapon attacks, ignores nuclear weapons strikes, immune to advanced concept rewrites, resistant to large solar flare bombings, unable to withstand supernova explosions, invulnerable to god-killing weapons that are not specialized in decomposing super genes. Close black lens bracket. Equipped with the Dark Plane Combat Engine, Duplication, Immobilization, Energy Burst, Fiery Eyes, 3 heads and 6 arms, Law of Heaven and Earth, Star Movement, etc. Newly added Dark Plane Combat Engines, Elemental Engine, Spacetime Engine, not completed, current progress is 69%. New high-level concept rewriter, not completed, current progress is 5%. Current equipment. Dark Alloy Rod, Dark Alloy Armor, Somersault Cloud. Close black lens bracket. New equipment. Infinite Rough Stone Power, Analysis Progress. 10%. New timing item. Progress bar, current progress is 45%. Looking at the information given by the Gene Engine, Moyu fell into silence. There are changes, but not much. Sure enough, compared to cheating, the speed of self-growth is really slower. At the same time, inside the Coast Villa, Tony took off his protective clothing and walked out of the genetic laboratory with a somewhat depressed expression on his face. There must be something wrong. Jarvis. There is indeed a special connection between Carol's serum and the Tesseract isotope, but I can't find it now. Sir, I will recheck the experimental process and find out the relevant points as soon as possible. So much the better. Tony nodded deeply. I have been boasting in front of that guy, but it has been half a month and there is still no progress at all. If we don't get some results, your boss and I will be laughed at by this guy. Maybe this is also a test, sir. The fart test. Tony rolled his eyes. Forget it, let's not talk about it. Have you passed the fully automatic assembly of the armor model? The verification has been completed and is currently being installed. Fully automated testing is expected to begin tonight. Already installed. Tony's eyes lit up. Okay, I won't sleep tonight and I'll ask you to complete the test of the armor. Sir, with all due respect, you have not slept for 2 days and 2 nights. If you continue to stay up late, it will damage your body functions. Tony smacked his lips, but I feel quite energetic. Having said this, Tony looked down at the reactor on his chest that had been brand new. Jarvis, do you think it has something to do with the new core? The exact cause is unknown, but the possibility cannot be ruled out. Tesseract. Tony turned and walked towards the workbench, looking at the series of projects projected in front of him and lost in thought. Jarvis, do you think the Tesseract will be in S.H.I.E.L.D.? Theoretically, yes. 2. Tony raised his hand and touched his chin. If you're right, he retrieved the Tesseract alone after World War II and studied it, so that's why I have the new elements I use now, and he is inextricably related to S.H.I.E.L.D. Since the Tesseract was not left to me as personal property, it can be in S.H.I.E.L.D. Doesn't staying in S.H.I.E.L.D. mean staying in the hands of Hydra and the Skrulls? This thing is so dangerous, is it okay to put it over there? He didn't believe that Moyu didn't know this, but I haven't seen him make any special moves for so long. Tony said he couldn't figure it out. Why do you care so much about Tesseract? The main reason is still because of the new elements and Carol's serum. Both of these are most directly related to Tesseract. If he can get the Tesseract, maybe he can find this connection between the three. There will definitely be major breakthroughs in the experimental process. Sir, someone is here. It's the black braised egghead who hacked me last time. He wants to hack in again? Tony raised an eyebrow. Yes, but I stopped you, sir. You are really smart. Haha. Tony immediately laughed. The same trick can't work on me a second time. Let him in. It just so happens that I also have some questions that need to be verified. The last time Jarvis was hacked, someone entered the house inexplicably, which made Tony very unhappy. After learning that the other party might be from Hydra, he became even more unhappy. This is one of the reasons why he upgraded successive Jarvis. It's not like he was stimulated by the great sages Moyu and Rimuru. Sir, the other party is suspected to be a Hydra member. Is it safe to let him in? Do you want to activate the emergency counterattack system? Tony thought for a while and nodded in agreement with Jarvis's proposal. Activate, but don't mess around without my order. Understood, sir. After the words fell, the door of the villa opened. Nick Fury walked in from outside with a dark face. It's hard for my people to see you. Do you want to open the door until I come in person? Since the last accident in Harlem, Phil Coulson wanted to ask Tony about the situation, but he was rejected by Pepper for half a month. Tony didn't go to the company at all. When I came directly to the villa, I was left hanging out with no one paying any attention to me, and I couldn't even get in. Nick Fury, who was extremely annoyed but helpless, chose to come in person. Ha! Tony curled his lips. I'm very busy and don't have time to meet any of the guys. Isn't it because of that Superboy group that you came to me this time? Especially knowing that S.H.I.E.L.D. is approximately equal to the present of Snake and S.H.I.E.L.D. If he hadn't wanted to get a set of information about the Tesseract from Nick Fury, the other party wouldn't have been able to get in through this door. It's the Avengers Project. Nick Fury corrected him in a deep voice, and then said, We won't talk about this today. I'm here to get information about a person. You should know him better. Hearing this, Tony paused slightly while pouring the wine. You're looking for information from me? Is it about Moyu? Sorry, you found the wrong person. I don't know him at all. You should go directly to the Empire State Building to find him. Don't tell me you don't even know this. Nick Fury, who was choked by Tony, sat on the sofa with a dark face and said unceremoniously. Our people went there, but to no avail. His men couldn't even get up to the Empire State Building. In other words, even if they go up, they will be teleported to the first floor in an instant. Let alone see Moyu, they can't even see the door. The other party made it clear that they didn't want to deal with them. As for the strong attack, although his methods are tough, he is very clear about the pros and cons. Pushing the other party to the opposite side because of something bad in Harlem? To provoke a mysterious magician who is elusive and more destructive than the Hulk for nothing. He's not as stupid as Ross. It's best if you can establish a good relationship with this kind of person. Even if you can't, don't mess with them. Otherwise, I don't know how I died, then I'm sorry. Listening to Nick Fury's words, Tony became more and more disdainful of the so-called S.H.I.E.L.D. I only know that the other party is a shareholder of my company or a friend of mine. I can't help with the rest. Are you sure? Nick Fury stared at Tony with his one eye open. He stole top-secret documents and top-secret items from the S.H.I.E.L.D. vault. He has become a dangerous person that I have to deal with. Tony, you are an insider, am I right? So, Tony took a sip of vodka. Which eye did you see? Where's the evidence? Oh, sorry, forgot you only have one eye left. Be careful if I sue you for libel, director. He has proof. Tony knew this, but I just couldn't help but want to tease him. Insider? Sorry, he is not just an insider. Those things are now in his laboratory. Confronting Nick Fury's rhetoric, Tony doesn't believe a word of it now. What does it mean to become a dangerous person that I have to deal with? Oh, it means you can still handle it. If you can handle it, why come to him to get Moyu's information? Isn't it just because there is nothing you can do against Moyu, so you can only find a breakthrough from him? What he said sounded nice. Are all Hydra people so arrogant? It seems like it's always been like this. Nick Fury saw the change in Tony's attitude and felt secretly depressed. The last time he came here to see Tony, it wasn't like this. Is it because of the influence of Moyu? Nick Fury, who was already dark-faced, had a frozen expression on his face. But now the goal has not been achieved. Maybe we have to change the way. Nick Fury said in a deep voice. Tony, some things don't require evidence. In other words, the evidence is in your chest. Howard is one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D. The new elements your father left you are indeed good. I know where it comes from, and that's enough. Listen to Nick Fury say this. Tony's hand holding the wine glass paused slightly. His expression changed slightly. One of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D.? His father, Howard Stark? It was even more outrageous than he thought. He originally thought it was just a cooperative relationship, but he didn't expect that he was actually the founder. So, is this guy planning to play the emotional card? No, 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 this will only make Tony hate the current S.H.I.E.L.D. even more. S.H.I.E.L.D., which his father established as one of the founders, is now occupied by Hydra. Do you still expect Tony to have a favorable impression of the current S.H.I.E.L.D.? The reason for not destroying S.H.I.E.L.D. directly is because Tony doesn't know the innocent ones inside. Everyone in Hydra screams for beating, and he doesn't have any psychological barriers when he kills him. But, innocent, Tony still can't bear to do it. Still have to wait. At least we need to get the whitelist or red list before we talk. But after hearing the other party's completely shameless words, Tony still couldn't help but feel a little angry. Tolerate? I can't bear it. Boom. The wine glass in his hand hit the table hard. Tony cursed in a deep voice. Since you know this, you should understand that this is my father's private property. You have taken it for yourself without asking. You have occupied this property for more than 20 years. It's enough that I don't take you to court. Now you have the nerve to use this to try to get me to betray my friends? A shameless thief is worse than a robber. Why do you have such a face? Son of a bitch. Tony had no intention of caring about anything. He almost pointed at Nick Fury's nose and scolded him directly. Nick Fury was stunned. It seems that I didn't expect things to develop in this direction. Tony's prejudice against S.H.I.E.L.D. seems to be far stronger than he expected. What happened here that he didn't know about that caused Tony's attitude to change 180 degrees? It's actually normal. Giving help in times of need and repaying a favor are two completely different concepts. In the original timeline, Nick Fury gave Tony this legacy when he was desperate, allowing Tony to regain his life. So Tony owes S.H.I.E.L.D. After learning that Howard was also the founder of S.H.I.E.L.D., Tony was willing to become a consultant to S.H.I.E.L.D. But what now? Nick Fury's attitude, in Tony's opinion, is that he intends to use this thing that should belong to him to blackmail him into betraying his friends. It's just crazy dancing in Tony's deadly minefield. If you don't criticize, who will you criticize? Watch your tone, Stark. Being pointed at and scolded by Tony, Nick Fury was inevitably a little angry. Tone. Tony curled his lips. I've always spoken like this, and I can't change it. If you don't like hearing it, get out. Jarvis. See you off. As soon as he finished speaking, Tony threw away his hand and walked towards the basement. No more information about Tesseract? And just prying around. Tony was convinced that sooner or later, that thing would fall into Mo Yu's hands. When the time comes, just have the shamelessness to rub it in. I did a lot of useless work today. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have let him in, it would have affected my mood. Dealing with someone who might be Hydra, and such a completely shameless guy. Tony said he was disgusted. Mr. Nick Fury, please leave as soon as possible, otherwise we will prosecute you for breaking into someone else's house. After hearing the order from his booze, Jarvis began to chase people away and dealt a heavy blow. Nick Fury looked at Tony's leaving figure without saying a word. Shaking off his windbreaker, he turned around and walked out of the villa. His face was extremely calm, but he didn't know if his lungs were in good condition. Don't explode. Nick Fury returned to the helicopter with his eyes closed and his brows furrowed. Although they parted on bad terms today, it could even be said that they had completely fallen out. But he still verified a lot of information from this short conversation. That mere unfinished research was not enough for Nick Fury to come to see Tony in person. Even if Tony completed that research, all he got was a new element. Fortunately, the Tesseract is in their hands. That piece of research is unimportant in comparison. More importantly, the serum belonging to the Skrulls and Carol was inexplicably stolen in the top secret area. That's the real priority. Before, I only suspected that it was related to Mo Yu. But now this possibility is undoubtedly firmly established. Not only is it related to Mo Yu, Stark is also an insider. He himself was involved. Go back to headquarters as quickly as possible. Yes, sir. The helicopter took off and returned to Washington as quickly as possible. Nick Fury is completely insecure now. Moyu's unscrupulous behavior made it difficult for him not to suspect that the other party's next target was the Tesseract. The serum has been stolen, and it looks like it can't be gotten back. But the Tesseract cannot be lost again. We must seize the time to move to a more top-secret place. That's unlimited energy. Who knows what the consequences will be if it falls into the hands of the other party. You must know that Carol's ability comes from the Tesseract. The opponent has now obtained the serum. If even the Rubik's Cube falls into the opponent's hands. Just in case. What if the other party used this to replicate Carol's method of gaining power? Nick Fury had no idea what a disaster that would be. Get rid of Nick Fury. Tony originally planned to carry out a fully automatic armor, which was the actual performance of the Mark 7 armor using a laser guidance tracking rapid deployment system. But the group, which had been quiet for a long time, suddenly became lively. Traveler Ying. At Quan Min, everyone, I'm in big trouble here. Close black lens bracket. Traveler Ying. Good guy, I was planning to find a place to eat, but as soon as I went out, the sky and the earth changed color. According to the soldiers next to me, it seemed that a certain fool executive had been released by Morax in Mephisto. The old Mephisto sealed during the war period. Close black lens bracket. Traveler Ying. It's noon now, but it's already dark. What a big scene. Picture.jpg. Close black lens bracket. Almost at the same time, the group members focused their full attention on the pictures that were displayed. It was clearly noon, but the sky was covered with dark clouds and rolling thunder continued to flash. Dense raindrops continued to fall. On the distant sea, more than a dozen thick waterspouts extended from the sea to the sky. Behind them, there were 5 water snake-like monsters circling and rising into the sky. The originally calm sea became rough and dangerous. It looked like a disaster was imminent. Pioneer Star. Gee, it's so big. It's indeed a big scene. How big was this so-called old Mephisto? Close black lens bracket. Iron Man Tony. There are not many reference objects to accurately measure, but the visual height is at least between 300 and 500 meters. Close black lens bracket. Pioneer Star. Compared with this old Mephisto, the creation engine seems to be a few sizes smaller. Kamigawa Warrior Moyu. Strictly speaking, what is visible to the naked eye is just the part of Mephisto Osil of the whirlpool. Its true body is still hidden underwater, and it has a total of 8 heads, with an overall length of about more than 1,000 meters. Close black lens bracket. Slime Rimuru. Hiss, kilometer-long Mephisto. It's so big. Show it. Start the live broadcast. Start the live broadcast. There's nothing more exciting than going to see the pictures with your own eyes. Close black lens bracket. Traveler Ying. You really don't think it's a big deal? If this thing lands in Liyue Port, what a disaster it will be. Have you never thought about it? Close black lens bracket. Iron Man Tony. Don't worry about that at all. Okay. Isn't the rock god not dead at all? Since this guy was suppressed by the rock god more than 2,000 years ago, he is probably no match for the rock god now. But since the rock god has not appeared, does that mean there are still people in Liyue Port who can handle it? This Mephisto from the old days exists, so it's not the rock god's turn to take action himself? Close black lens bracket. Slime Rimuru. That makes sense, don't worry too much, Ying, it will be fine. Start the live broadcast, start the live broadcast. Trailblazer Star. I also think there should be a backup plan. There is no need to worry so much. Get melon seeds and Coke ready and watch the show. It seems so. At the edge of the pier, Yingmei held an umbrella and thought for a moment, then nodded. What the friends said is correct. Since this thing was suppressed by the Rock King during the Mephisto battle formation, how could it be the opponent of the Rock King now? Maybe. The immortals can solve this matter. Yingmei doesn't know what the other immortals are like, but Mandrill is indeed quite strong, at least much stronger than her now. Looking at Canoe Pavilion, which was already drifting towards Auxerre, Yingmei decisively opened the live broadcast room. Jian Yingmei started a live broadcast. Rimuru, who was bored, was the first to enter the live broadcast room. Moyu followed closely behind. After saying hello to March 7th, Xing returned to the room with Guazi Cola and followed him into the live broadcast room. Tony simply dropped the idea of testing the Mark 7 and focused on watching the show. The group members gathered together again. It feels very oppressive. Looking at Osil in the distance with his own eyes, Rimuru smacked his lips. Isn't it like I can't beat this thing now? Although he defeated the pig-headed emperor, the guy in front of him was not at the same level as the pig-headed emperor. With his current strength, I'm afraid he won't be able to fight. It's indeed quite big. Xing looked at the melon seeds for a few times and said with an indifferent expression. But it seems like he's just a little bit bigger? Tony watched this scene quietly, but the idea of building a giant armor became more and more intense. Thinking about what might happen next, there was a little anticipation in his eyes. He turned to Mo Yu and asked, "Will we be able to see the battle between gods later?" "I guess so." Mo Yu turned around and looked at Ying, who was waving towards them, and said a little uncertainly. Not only his world line has changed, Yingmei's side has also changed. Ying was originally supposed to be in Canoe Pavilion, but now she is watching a show here. The tracks became too many. I don't know if it's good or bad. Without Ying, the transfer station that carries the power of the immortals, just smashing a group of jade pavilions, can it really force Osul back? I guess it's a bit confusing. Maybe we can see the old man taking action himself this time? I'm inexplicably looking forward to it. Xing, you've gone too far. You brought your own recliner, and you're also eating melon seeds and drinking Coke. Yingmei pointed at Xing, who was lying leisurely watching the show with melon seeds in her arms and Coke in her hand. Just passing the time. Xing shrugged, with a smile on his face. I can't share it with you in the live broadcast room. It's not that I want to eat alone. Red envelope, red envelope. The corner of Yingmei's mouth curled up. Wouldn't it be better to send it to me in a red envelope? Don't tell me you don't want to share it. Eye to head. Rimuru also turned around. There is also mine, I want to share too. The corners of Xing's eyes twitched and he said helplessly, okay, wait. As he finished speaking, Xing handed the melon seeds and cola beside him to Ying and Rimuru respectively. Fortunately, she prepared a little more, otherwise it wouldn't be enough. Tony, don't worry, do you want it? Forget the Coke, give me some melon seeds. Tony nodded with a smile. Same. Mo Yu laughed. A group of people were lying on deck chairs, eating melon seeds and drinking Coke and watching this big movie. It was called Leisurely. The girl next to her had itchy teeth. Why is she the only one who needs to hold an umbrella and still stand? Not fair at all. Seeing Ying chatting with his air friend, again, Paimon next to him scratched his head. Ying, should we do something now? I always feel so panicked. It's okay, we don't need to worry. Yingmei shook her head slightly, and then used elemental power to condense a stone lounge chair and stone umbrella. At the same time, put melon seeds and Coke on the table. Paimon, would you like some? Paimon was completely stunned. Ying, isn't it bad if we do this? Li Wei is facing a disaster, so they don't want to help. They're still lying here leisurely watching the show. Will he be beaten to death? Ying, if we do this, we will be beaten to death, right? Looking at Yingmei, who was already lying down, Paimeng looked around guiltily, his heart full of worry. If someone sees you like this, you will definitely get beaten, right? Don't worry, there's no one here. Yingmei breathed a long sigh of relief. Don't worry, I'll give you a thorough examination. Emperor Yan Wang is not dead. Huh? Paimon's eyes widened. Not dead? But, didn't we see the fall of the Rock King Emperor at Yujing Terrace with our own eyes? Fake death, fake death. Yingmei smiled and shook her head. Although I don't know what is going on here that we don't know, the only thing I know is that the Rock King is not dead yet. Don't look at the merrymaking of Osul on the sea. That's because no one has beaten him yet. That's it. Paimon seemed to be relieved and asked curiously. Are these also what your air friends told you? That's right. Yingmei shrugged helplessly. Although he had already talked to Paimon before, Paimon was still dubious. She said there was nothing she could do, and Paimon said it was okay. Then I'll try my best to eat some. Paimon, who was already a little greedy, couldn't care less about anything else at the moment. He squeezed directly next to Yingmei, grabbed a handful of melon seeds and started eating them. Now that things are like this, what can she do? What can she do with only 1/5 of the fighting power of a wild boar? Is it possible for her to challenge the old Mephisto? Don't be kidding. Her small and exquisite body may not be enough to fill the gap between her teeth. It's better to just check here with Ying. At most, you can fill up on gas and cheer up or something. Seeing that Yingmei was completely lying flat, the smile on Mo Yu's face became a little weird. Is this really good? However, it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong. Just think about it. Forget it. Teyvat is not his base camp, why bother with so many things? Even if he wants to help, he can't help now. After all, the chat group has no mission options and no options to travel around the world. How to help? So far, apart from the Jade Pavilion floating in the sky, there doesn't seem to be any masters appearing. Tony, your idea just now seems a bit inaccurate. Looking at the Jade Pavilion facing Osul alone in the sky, Rimuru expressed some doubts. Without the big boss taking action, can the two of the 7 stars and those human soldiers really defeat the old Mephisto? Don't all masters appear last? Showing no panic. Maybe we can't tell even if we check the situation now. As soon as he finished speaking, several streaks of light flew out from behind and landed steadily on the Jade Pavilion. Here, look, it's coming. Seeing this scene, Tony immediately put on his glasses. The show is about to begin. It's a pity. Shing, who was holding a straw in his mouth, joked. I can't participate, I can only watch. After all, it's not interesting. Moyu raised his eyebrows. Oh? So, you want to have sex? When did Shing become a militant? Well, Shing looked at Osul in the distance and shook his head silently. It's just a talk. Even if you let me go, unless the star core explodes again, I won't be able to do it no matter what, right? This kind of enemy is beyond the standard. Indeed, Rimuru nodded in agreement. Maybe I can fight after I evolve from the Demon King species to the Demon King, but now, I can only barely be at best, right? After Rimuru finished speaking, he looked at Moyu. By the way, what about you, Moyu? Can you handle this old Mephisto? Same question. Shing also expressed curiosity. As the most mysterious guy in the group and the one who knows the most things, his strength cannot be said to be weak, right? Stronger than all of them, that's probably a fact. I think it's okay. Before Moyu could speak, Tony took over the conversation. This guy is so physically strong that there is no way to detect it, and he can also control a terrifying rough stone that is so powerful that it can destroy a planet with just one blow. His own the power can be imagined. Huh? Rimuru's eyes suddenly widened. Can you destroy the planet with just one strike? Humanoid Doomsday Beast. Or Humanoid Star Destroyer. Xing's eyes twitched. As expected, Yingmei secretly smacked her lips. I knew you were a pervert. It's not that exaggerated. Moyu rolled his eyes. Don't listen to his nonsense. He already said that he relied on the Power Stone. I can't destroy a planet instantly just by relying on my own strength. If there is enough time for him to activate Dharma, Heaven, Elephant and Earth, it is not difficult to explode the planet with a stick. But it is a pity that in addition to the Power Stone, there is currently no other energy source to support it, so it cannot be started quickly. At most, you can only activate the giant mode independently. The energy required by Fatn Shang Di is too terrifying, and the skill forward swing is too long. Just think about it. Practical application is impractical. When top players compete against each other, every second counts. That idiot will wait for you for a minute or two in the middle of the battle to save energy and use your ultimate move? Unless you let him accumulate energy before starting the battle. Moreover, not only does it require a huge amount of energy to activate the Fatn Shang Earth, but the energy required to maintain operations is also extremely terrifying. In theory, it can last for about 10 minutes, but in actual practice, it is unclear. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. Backquote. Wait, Tony's eyes widened even more. You said, instantly, does that mean you can do it as long as I give you time? Without the help of the Power Stone? Probably. Moyu shook his head lightly, hiss. Tony gasped. I have tried my best to preset the upper limit of Moyu. But the destruction of the planet by individuals still exceeded his expectations. Lee's good. You have to know for hundreds of years. You are completely a pervert. Rimuru couldn't help but complain. Does this count as abnormal? Moyu turned his head and glanced sideways at Rimuru. In the future, this guy can also target the creator god of his world, which is the Star Dragon King. If you create a complete world, then it has reached the level of super single, okay? Do you have the nerve to call me a pervert? That's right. Facing Moyu's eyes, Rimuru said loudly. You can destroy the planet casually. What is it if you are not a pervert? At least there is no one more perverted than you in this group, right? That's right. Shing nodded in agreement. It's hard to disagree. Tony and Aina also chose to stand on the same side as Rimuru. Just when Moyu was about to retort, a crisp sound sounded in the minds of all the group members. Open black lens bracket ding. Close black lens bracket. Ding, the world line where the group member, Traveler Ying, is located has changed, and the mission is being generated. Open black lens bracket mission 1 hyphenation point destroyer. Target world. Teyvat, mission content. Completely release the old Mephistas, including Osil, who were suppressed by Lord Gaian, kill the rock god Morax, destroy Liyue port, reenact the Mephisto war, and lead the world to the line of destruction. Mission time. Infinite, until the world is destroyed. Mission reward. 1 copy of the Origin of the World, for all participants in the mission. Participants. All. Open black lens bracket mission 2 Savior, target world, Teyvat. Mission content. Kill and destroy all the old Mephistas who were suppressed by Lord Gaian, including Osil, and lead the world to the line of perfection. Note. Do not let the remains of Mephistas wreak havoc, otherwise it will be considered a mission failure. Mission time. 10 hours. Mission reward. A copy of Gulong Power. 7-element rules are optional and will be awarded based on the participant's contribution. The higher the contribution, the more complete the rule. Participants. All. Note. The content of the task will be selected by voting by the group members. You can abandon the vote and give up the task. F*K. Looking at this group announcement, Rimuru immediately cursed. What's going on? World line change. Is this the point? Star 027 complained. Mission. This content is too exciting, isn't it? You actually want us to lead a world to destruction? The task is optional and requires a vote by all members, and can even be given up. Tony pushed up his glasses, but there is no doubt that no matter which one it is very troublesome. Judging from the current situation, there are probably only one of us who can complete the task perfectly. Alone. The origin of the world and the power of the ancient dragon. Who can explain it? Besides, there shouldn't be anyone to choose from, right? Hey, you can't choose one no matter what, right? Yingmei jumped up from the recliner. Is it okay if I choose mission 1? That is inevitable. Xing nodded slightly. We are not devils. We can't bear to watch one world go to ruin, let alone lead 10 worlds to go to ruin with our own hands. That's what Nanook wants to do. I'm the unknown guest who opens up a new path in life. Where are you, Rimuru? That's definitely. Rimuru nodded without hesitation. It definitely can't be the first one. No matter how good the origin of the world is, I won't choose it. Tony must be, H2, right? Nonsense, Tony frowned. What I'm thinking about now is how to complete task 2. 1 is impossible. He is a superhero. How could he do something that only a supervillain would do? But even for task 2, the difficulty is visible to the naked eye. The Mark 7 seems useless in a battle at such a high altitude, right? Moyu, what do you think? Tony, who understood that he would probably only be able to fish in troubled waters and get nothing if he participated in the mission, simply set his sights on Moyu. Me? Moyu touched his chin and said, I'm a bit greedy for the origin of the world. Everyone immediately shouted and opened their mouths. Just kidding. Moyu waved his hand. Ying is still here. Why can't I choose mission 1? You don't look like you're joking at all, everyone complained. What if Ying was not here, or if there was a world that had nothing to do with the group members instead of Teyvat? Will Moyu choose task 1? Okay, let's start voting. Moyu smiled slightly and stood up from the recliner. Be prepared for the battle. Ji Yulong's power is still of some use to me now. I will not give in to the complete one. Although it is still the ability to control elements, it undoubtedly involves rules. The functions of controlling elements and elemental engines in the previous part are almost the same. But the latter rule is Moyu's next step. This cologne power may be used as a stepping stone. After hearing this, everyone didn't think much and silently cast their votes. Task 2 has been generated and will be transferred in 30 seconds. Please prepare everyone. Close black lens bracket. 30 seconds? Except for Moyu, everyone was stunned. Then he decisively withdrew from the live broadcast room. Xing immediately found GZ and explained the situation. Rimuru also ordered Xian, then put on a mask and raised tens of thousands. Tony even took off his suit and put on the laser guidance terminal. Jarvis, dress me in Mark 7 immediately. Sir, Mark 7 has not passed yet. Stop talking nonsense, hurry up, I only have 23 seconds left. By the way, Tell Pepper that I have to go out for about 10 hours. It's normal that you can't contact me. Tell her not to panic. 389, sir. The wall suddenly extended, and Mark 7 was pushed out by Jarvis. After sensing the guidance terminal on Tony's wrist, he immediately started shapeshifting his clothes. The main one is fast and smart. No more assistance from robotic arms. The other end. Moyu just told the two little ones to go out, then stood still and waited for the transmission from the group. This is the first time that I have experienced dimensional travel from different worlds with clear consciousness. Oh, no, it must be the second time. The first time is when you come to this world. It's just that he couldn't react at all the first time. Dimension traveling and traveling through a portal are two completely different concepts. He needs serious feelings. Anything that allows him to grab a little bit of inspiration is of great benefit. Definitely, the greater possibility is that he can't feel anything. But what if? Right, at the same time, on the pier of Liwei Port. Yingmei looked up at Chun Yu Pavilion, where formations had been deployed and troops were lining up in the sky, and she silently drew out the edgeless sword. There were only 30 seconds, which was not enough for her to find the jade pavilions on the Bu Yang Fu Shang Shi platform. But, my power is blocked, I can't use my wings, and I can't fly. We can only wait for the arrival of the powerful group of friends. Ying, what are you? Paimon, who was eating melon seeds, took out his edgeless sword again when he saw her. He looked like he wanted to join the battle, and he was immediately confused. Doesn't it mean that there is no need to worry at all? They can just watch the show from the sidelines? Why is it that he is in this posture now, as if he is going to fight Osel? Yingmei looked back with a smile. Paimon, don't you really believe that I have friends in other worlds? You can see them today, don't be too surprised. 30 seconds flew by. Moyu felt his eyes go dark, as if something was flowing past him. Before he could react, his eyes lit up and raindrops like beads fell on him. The world in front of me is real. No longer a picture reflected by the soul. Unfortunately, I still can't capture that feeling. Raising his hand and placing it under the rain curtain, Moyu felt a little regretful as he watched the drops falling and the raindrops in his palm. The process of traveling through the world is simply too fast, and I can't catch it at all. Is everyone here? Seeing these people coming under the rain, the smile on Yingmei's face became a little brighter. Hi, Star, who was holding Amber, raised his hand and greeted Ying and Paimon. Hello, I'm Paimon. Paimon, who had always talked a lot, now opened his mouth and stared, and responded nervously and dryly. He hid behind Ying as if afraid of strangers. Tony, you look so handsome in this armor. Rimuru stared at Tony, who was wearing Mark 7, with glowing eyes, looking ready to make a move. It's not bad. If you like it, I'll give you a set when the time comes, even though it's useless to you. Tony nodded slightly, then pointed at the mask on Rimuru's face, and said with some confusion. But why are you still wearing a mask? This. Rimuru touched the mask on his face. It's a relic of an old friend. It can also block the breath. After all, slimes in this world are also monsters. I don't want to be misunderstood or even yelled to be killed as soon as I appear. That's true. Tony thinks it makes sense. Okay, let's not talk about this for now. How should we do this mission? We only have 10 hours. Once it times out, the mission will be considered a failure. It's really difficult. Xing frowned slightly. It is said that we want to clean up all the old Mephistas of Mr. Guyan. Does that mean we have to release these Mephistas first? No. Yingmei shook her head without hesitation. These are Mephistas, and it's not easy to defeat them. If they just want to escape, we can't chase them all over the world, right? Not to mention that these Mephistas have all kinds of weird powers. Who knows if there are any super stubborn ones? If the other party keeps quiet and hides in a place where we can't find it, wouldn't it be a complete failure in the map? It seems to make sense. So, Tony touched his chin and said with some embarrassment, we can only go into the water and enter the seal to deal with these Mephistas. Moyu, what do you think, me? Moyu looked at his right hand in a daze. The purple rough stone was still shining brightly, not dim at all. I don't think it's necessary to go to such trouble, just follow Xing's method. You go to fight Osel first, and I will set up some magic circles. Then I will use the magic circles as nodes to isolate the entire Yunlai space, and then apply mirror images to escape from reality. Finally, I will narrow the scope and try to catch turtles in an urn. Isn't it a requirement of the mission that there should be no Mephisto residue left? If we kill him in the mirror space, there will be no Mephisto residue left in reality, once and for all. Listening to Mo Yu's description, everyone seemed to understand, but looked confused. But Xing reacted and nodded cooperatively. I understand. Anyway, we should go and attack Osul now. Yes, yes. Rimuru also nodded quickly. Then we will go ahead and buy you time to set up the magic circle. I'll just kite remotely. Tony looked at Osul's huge body and said helplessly. I don't know how much damage I can do before my missiles run out. I hope it's not zero, otherwise it will be very embarrassing. Let's go. After the words fell, Tony took the lead and drove the Mark 7 towards the battlefield. Hello. A pair of batwings spread out behind Rimuru, and with a whoosh, he quickly caught up with Tony, who ran first. Seeing this scene, Xing and Ying looked at each other and scratched their heads in embarrassment. One is unable to fly, and the other is unable to fly now. What to do? You guys. Forget it, wait a minute. Mo Yu shook his head secretly, raised his hands slightly, and a ray of light floated on his fingertips. The golden silk threads slowly formed a seemingly complex but relatively simple magic circle. As the formed magic circle fell on their bodies, Yingmei and Xing felt light all over, and their bodies slowly floated off the ground. The simplest flight method can last for about a day. By mobilizing your strength and feeling it carefully, you can control the direction and speed of flight. Definitely, the fastest will not exceed 3 times the speed of sound, you can just control it yourself. Looking at the two people who were a little confused, Mo Yu explained appropriately. Magic. Xing looked at himself up and down, feeling interesting. Even in her world, not everyone can master flight. As a result, Mo Yu raised his hand and drew a magic circle to give others flight ability for a whole day. Xing, follow up. While Xing was curious, Yingmei had mastered this power very skillfully. A sonic explosion exploded, reaching 3 times the speed of sound, and quickly rushed towards the battlefield. Hey, damn, how can you fly so fast? Just wait for me. Xing, who has not yet fully adapted to flight, can only try his best to keep up. However, the speed is quite slow compared to Ying. But this is normal. Xing was just a newborn baby whose past memories had already been sent to the hospital. But Ying emerged from the seal but retained most of his memories and fighting instincts. I used to be a big shot who could travel across the sea of stars. Flight and all, it's a piece of cake. Hey, Ying, don't leave me. Looking at Ying and Xing going away, Paimon was immediately confused. Although she could fly, she couldn't fly very fast, let alone catch up with Ying, who was traveling at 3 times the speed of sound. Paimon. Looking at Paimon, who looked panicked, Mo Yu chuckled and said, just follow me first. I'll help them fight Osul, so they won't be distracted. Is that okay? Paimon said nervously. Well, Don't be nervous. Mo Yu smiled and said, my name is Mo Yu, one of Ying's friends. Don't worry, I won't eat you, let alone sell you. Then. Okay then, after glancing in the direction of Osul from a distance, Paimon slowly floated to Mo Yu's side and said timidly. Don't worry, take it, please take care of me next. Good to say. Mouth, Mo Yu, can I ask a question? Looking at Mo Yu, who was completely motionless next to him, Paimon put his hands behind his back and spoke with some curiosity and some fear. Definitely, Mo Yu nodded. Real? Seeing that Mo Yu's tone was quite kind, Paimon felt a little relieved and spoke again. Did you really come to Teyvat from a different world? Right. I just heard you say that you want to completely eliminate Mr. Guyan's Mephisto? Yes. That's the old Mephisto. Can it really be solved? Definitely. Mo Yu nodded without hesitation. The trap has been set, just waiting for the prey to enter the net, and then catch them all in one catch. Paimon pointed at each other. Didn't you just say that you were going to set up a magic circle? Tell me where you were going. I am familiar with Liwei Port, 180. No, it's already started. Mo Yu shook his head calmly. I already sent duplication out to set up the magic circle as soon as I came here. It will be set up right away. In fact, it's not even the first time. It was only after he discovered that the Power Stone can still be used even if it leaves the MCU, and made a plan to strangle Mephisto. As for why the Power Stone did not lose its original power after leaving the original world, all this can only be attributed to the magical chat group. Hearing this, Paimon was stunned. This has already been arranged? When will it be done? She didn't realize it was good at all. Distance. The four-man team encircling Auxir has arrived on the battlefield. With Rimuru as the main attacker, Yixing as the core of the team, Yingmei and Tony are responsible for destroying the people on the edge. The four of them worked together to launch an attack on Auxir. The unreserved firepower was poured out one after another, and it actually contained Osair firmly. Black Flame, Black Lightning, Black Flame Prison, Black Thunderstorm, Flame Explosion Prison Formation, Water Ice Demon Shot. Rimuru is like an infinite blue bar, with all kinds of skills, all in Osei a few of your heads. Basically, Rimuru is in C, and his skills are so powerful that they are not inferior to Oser at all. Well, the overall MVP. Rimuru. On the road from Demon King to Demon King, Rimuru's strength can be said to be increasing every moment. The growth rate is nothing short of abnormal. Zinran, this person is still very weak, and after being tricked by you, there is no truth in his mouth. Watching this scene, Tony's eyes constantly twitched as he was on edge. Xing and Ying also shrugged helplessly, and then continued to attack to deal damage. Not to be outdone, Tony poured out all the ammunition he had on him without reservation. Although the big head is destined to be taken away by Moyu, the strongest among them. But it's good to be able to use it a little more. After all, the higher the damage done, the higher the mission contribution, and the higher the integrity of the ancient dragon's power. No one wants to take advantage of this kind of thing, right? That's a real improvement. After hearing Tony's words, Rimuru just smiled awkwardly but politely, with a slightly helpless expression. After all, his understanding of himself seems to be somewhat inadequate. It's not that he deliberately wanted to hide his clumsiness, nor did he want to deceive his friends. The other end. The expressions of the immortals, Gan Yu, Kei Qing and Ning Guang in Chun Yu Pavilion were a little strange. This group of inexplicable and eccentric people who came from nowhere seemed to have robbed them of their role. But it should be a good thing, right? HMPH, relying on outsiders to solve the disaster in Liyue? Doesn't it show that we and the immortals are incompetent? That's unreasonable. The arrogant Liuyan took the lead in spreading his wings and leaping into the sky, heading straight for Auxir. Judging from the surging momentum, it seems that he is also mad and wants to output. After all these years, I still have such a bad temper. Xia Yue sighed, stamped her hooves, and chose to catch up in the air. Although Lu Yun was said to be irritable, this guy's pace was not slow at all, and the red light in his eyes was about to take shape. Obviously, the issue of face cannot be taken lightly. Li Shui said nothing and fluttered his wings away. The ideas are probably the same. As for Mandrill, he had already taken the lead in joining the battle group the moment Lu Yun took off and launched a fierce offensive against Osil. Grandma Ping, what should we do now? Seeing the four immortals joining the battle group, Gan Yu didn't know what to do for a moment. He could only look at Grandma Ping, who was the only one still staying in the Jade Pavilion. They originally planned to use the final machine to pour out a wave of firepower on Osel, weakening Osel's power first. But now I dare not use it indiscriminately. The battle situation was so chaotic that if Orr was not hit, one of his own would be accidentally injured. That's a big joke. Grandma Ping was silent for a moment, frowned and shook her head. Just do your best and do as much as you can. This game was supposed to be a trap set by the Emperor, and the purpose was probably to test Li Yu. But at the moment, she couldn't understand the situation. These people can't be actors invited by the Emperor, right? It doesn't look like much, but if not, where did these people come from? Ability is even more bizarre. Ningguang, you are relatively well informed about the news in the world. Do you know all these people? Immortal Miao praised it. Ningguang shook his head with a smile. Among these four people, only one of them is familiar to me. The other three, I really don't know anything about. Are you talking about travelers? Kei Qing's beautiful eyes narrowed and she said softly. Mon's honorary knight helped Mond solve the dragon disaster. It is said that he came from outside the world. Could these people be helpers she found from outside the world? Everyone was thinking deeply. This possibility seems quite high. But why? Puzzled. North Pier. Moyu was chatting with Paimon, and the atmosphere was quite peaceful. But then there was a sound of footsteps. Let the two of them divert their attention from the battle group 5.2 meters away. Under the rain curtain, a figure with his left hand on his back and an oil paper umbrella in his right hand walked from far to near. The person who came here was tall and slender, handsome in appearance, elegant in manner, and of good temperament. Those amber-like eyes gave people an extremely strong sense of oppression. Zhongli. Why are you here? The first time he saw the person coming, Paimon recognized him. Oh, I see, you must be here to watch the battle too, right? It's Paimon. Zhongli was a little surprised when he saw Paimon not following Ying for the first time, but then he nodded gently to Paimon and said softly. The atmosphere today is very noisy. I really can't stay in the hall calmly, so I can't help but go out and take a look. By the way, Paimon, who is this gentleman? Forehead. Paimon, who is this gentleman? Forehead. Facing Zhongli's inquiry, Paimon felt numb for a moment and didn't know how to introduce him. Are you saying that Mo Yu is a rescuer brought by Ying from outside the world to kill all the Mephistas of Lord Gaian's past? Will Zhongli think she is crazy? Normal people wouldn't believe this, right? Sensing Paimon's predicament, Mo Yu took the initiative and took a step forward. Mr. Zhongli, my name is Mo Yu. I have heard for a long time that Mr. Zhongli is knowledgeable, well-groomed, and has a jade tree facing the wind. I saw you today. The rumors are indeed true. Mr. Mo Yu is overly praised. Zhongli nodded slightly. A little knowledge is not worth boasting about. I wonder what you, sir, can do when you come to Liwei Port today. What do you want? After speaking politely, get to the point. Obviously Zhongli is very curious or worried about Mo Yu, or the purpose of his and the group members' visit. Maybe more of the latter, purpose. Mo Yu turned around and looked at the battlefield. This is to get rid of the sins of the past and let the world move towards a better future. Isn't that what they are here for? It should be considered a good deed. 04. At least to this world. Otherwise, there is no need to write the task description of the chat group like this. Oh. Zhongli was visibly stunned and said rather puzzledly. Once Mephisto dies, his power will flow out uncontrollably, leaving the residue of Mephisto to poison future generations. Does Dr. Mo Yu know this? Mo Yu nodded immediately. I know, and there is a solution, otherwise we wouldn't be here. Hearing this, Zhongli's amber eyes lit up slightly. Sir, do you really mean what you say? If there was a way to deal with the remnants of Mephisto, he would not have just sealed these Mephistas in Lord Gaian. After all, no matter how strong the seal is, it will eventually be broken one day. This is an extremely dangerous and unstable factor. He will eventually leave one day, and the seal he left behind, no matter how hard it is maintained, will eventually be broken. When the old Mephisto breaks out of the seal, the people of Liwei will suffer after all. This is one of the reasons why he set up this situation. The purpose is to see if Shiji has a way to deal with Mephisto every day without him. If Mo Yu really has a way to eliminate the residue of Mephisto, he was more than happy to step in and lend a helping hand. Mo Yu understood what Zhongli meant and said simply, my method is not universal, so I plan to annihilate all of Gaian's Mephistos just once, completely eliminating the hidden danger. Mr. Zhongli, are you willing to believe it? Zhongli was silent for a few seconds and said seriously. I wonder how confident Mr. Mo Yu is. Confirmed. Mo Yu slowly raised his right hand, and the violent and restrained purple light flashed away. 10%. Feeling this almost boundless terrifying power, Zhongli's eyes suddenly shrank.
While secretly shocked in his heart, he nodded and turned around.
So, I understand, sir, please let me know when you take action. I am willing to help you. Is this agreement or disagreement? Mo Yu doesn't know yet how the contribution of group tasks is determined. After all, the mission is also the first time to start, and it is the first time for everyone. If Zhongli is involved and everyone's contribution is reduced, does it seem a bit unworthy? He himself was absolutely sure, and the impact on Rimuru would not be great. But for Xing, Ying and Tony, the probability of them being affected is very high. If it hangs up for no reason, it was an absolutely wonderful scene. Mo Yu secretly asked everyone's opinions in the group. But the opinions are surprisingly unified. Since everyone agreed, Mo Yu naturally had no objections. Immediately he said, Mr. Zhongli, while we are taking action, please trouble me to undo the seal of your Excellency Ji Yuku. If you, sir, are worried, you can follow our formation. That's fine. Zhongli nodded slightly, and there seemed to be a smile on his face. You seem to be discussing something very important. Zhongli, do you also want to go together to defeat the old Mephistos? Listening to the conversation between the two, Paimon was confused. She obviously knew every word separately, but when they were put together, why couldn't she understand them? Of course. Zhongli said with a smile. It's about Liyu's stability. If I can be useful, how can I refuse? Paimon, don't worry. Although my strength is not strong, it is more than enough to protect myself. That's it, then I'll feel relieved. Paimon nodded, believing Zhongli's words. Seeing that Pai Meng believed him, Mo Yu shook his head in silence. Good one, I am not strong Morax. If I hadn't known about your record of breaking through the Mephisto War and suppressing many Mephistas with boundless slaughter, I would have almost believed it. You must know that during the Mephisto War, the place with the most Mephista and the most intense war was Liyue among the 7 kingdoms.
The scene was besieged on all sides. As a result, Morax and the Immortals were pushed flatly.
The remaining Mephistas died, fled, and were suppressed. The strength of Morax is evident. Among the many Mephistas, it is undoubtedly the one that ranks at the top of the pyramids. At the same time, Yunlai High Battlefield. Tony, do you still have enough weapons reserves? It's basically gone, but I can still fight, although there's not much damage. Looking at the empty weapon reserves, Tony responded helplessly. He currently only has 580 energy, which is enough, but the output is not enough. Ying, Xing, can you still hold on? Don't underestimate me. I don't get tired that easily. Don't worry, your will is still strong. Yingmei, who had already switched to several edgeless swords, didn't feel tired at all. She is very motivated when she gets rewards. He can play for several days without taking a break. And holding Amber in hand and blessed by the will to protect, Xing will not feel tired. It's just that the output is not enough, which makes her a little distressed. You guys are really hardworking. Also, why is this monster's blood so thick? Rimuru threw out the black flame prison he was holding in his hand again, holding the sword tightly in his other hand, and slashes with black flames also burst out. This guy has used his body to force me through countless skills, but he still hasn't fallen down. Invincible blood cow, you? Or has the bloodlock been unlocked? Super hard to beat. Looking at Osul, who was injured but still not falling, Rimuru secretly complained in his heart. Although the magic element is completely sufficient, if you keep throwing away skills, you will be mentally tired. Rimuru expressed that he wanted to be lazy. Great Sage, I leave it to you. I'll take a short rest. Understood. Enter automatic combat mode. Seeing Rimuru handing over the battle to the Great Sage, the corners of the mouths of the 3 of them twitched fiercely. You actually asked the Great Sage to fight for you? You stinky old man. Have to say, the Great Sage's control of the battle situation was far better than Rimuru's personal performance. If we say that 8 individuals were fighting against Osul before, then after the Great Sage takes over the battle, it is a group that fights Osul together. With Rimuru as the core of the tactics, the 3 group members and the 4 immortals connected their attacks as one, and reached a consensus in just 20 seconds, defeating Osul, who was still holding on. The half-body and 5 heads that broke out of the seal were destroyed one after another, and the body was gradually pulled back by the seal. Suppressing it back into the seal seems to be right now. This is the plan of the immortals. But what Rimuru and his group members wanted was far from that. After all, everyone's task is not to force Osul back into the seal, but to wipe out the old Mephistas of Lord Gaian, including the current Osul. Everyone, be prepared and don't resist. While several people were thinking about how to delay time, Moyu's voice slowly sounded in everyone's minds. The final carnival is about to begin. Are we going to start? Rimuru took over the body again and said with a smile. You finally got it, Moyu. Let us wait easily. Sorry. Moyu's voice sounded again. When you meet the local leader, it is inevitable that you have to say a few more words to explain clearly. Understood. Understood. Star God took a deep breath. Then, let's count down. Don't worry, we are ready. Me too. Yingmei also responded. On the dock. Moyu looked at Zhongli beside him and nodded slightly. After understanding the meaning in Moyu's eyes, Zhongli raised his right hand, and a golden stream of light appeared in his palm. An illusory golden talisman gradually took shape, echoing the seal of Lord Gaian. Zhongli tapped his index finger lightly, and the talisman immediately shattered. The seal of Lord Gaian was full of cracks and completely shattered with a crisp sound. In an instant, several terrifying auras rose rapidly from the bottom of the sea and spread crazily. The already dark sky became as dark as ink. The extremely terrifying sense of oppression can even make one unable to breathe. Enter the internet cafe Point. Moyu raised his right hand high, dark energy surged crazily, and a bright light shot into the sky. At the same time, on the Tianeng Mountains on 3 sides of Liwei Port and at the end of the Yunlai Sea, 6 rays of light rose into the sky. With Moyu as the core, a huge magic circle was built in the sky that stretched for thousands of miles. Under Moyu's control, the magic circle was divided into 2, one facing up and the other down. In an instant, it encompassed all the space with a radius of thousands of miles, and almost completely separated most of Yunlai from this world. Before Mephisto could react after breaking the seal, Moyu stretched out his index finger. The space first shattered and then stitched together again. Dragged the entire space separated by the magic circle into the mirror space. In this mission, the real difficulty is not how to kill Mephisto, but how to prevent Mephisto from escaping, and how to not leave any traces of Mephisto behind. Now, these 2 trouble spots are no longer troubles. The turtle in the urn, where to escape, this. The immortals who were fighting fiercely were stunned. They already felt bad when they realized that the seal was completely broken, but at this moment, the drastic changes in the sky also made them confused. No need to worry, this is all done with my help. Emperor? This is the Emperor's voice. The immortals present all widened their eyes. He breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, as if he had found his backbone. Although I had guessed early on that the Emperor would not be assassinated, let alone die, I was still a little worried. At this moment, I finally feel relieved. Everyone, dinner is coming. Moyu's figure appeared in front of everyone, accompanied by Paimeng and Zhongli. Are you ready? Naturally, Zhongli put one hand behind his back and spread his right hand gently. A black robe with a hood gradually emerged, and the lines of the rock element spread on the arms, and the mark representing the rock Mephisto solidified behind him. Obviously, they are already prepared to fight. Zhongli is the Rock King Emperor? Seeing this scene, Yingmei's eyes twitched slightly and she complained crazily. Good guy, I hid it for half a month. Although I had known for a long time that this guy's identity was not simple, I didn't expect that he was actually Iwagami himself. Damn it. Don't worry, let's start. The decisive battle will follow. Rimuru waved his hand, and the expression under his mask became serious. There are so many Mephistos. Although most of them are weaker than Osel, they are not easy to deal with. Rimuru, I'll leave Osel to you, can you handle it? Everyone looked at each other and nodded. Yingmei said in a deep voice. Just leave it to us. This guy is at the end of his game. If this still can't be solved, you can find a piece of tofu and kill him. Backquote. Hey. Tony's eyes twitched. If you say that, wouldn't I have to hang myself on a dog's tail hair early? She probably didn't mention you. Xing shrugged. You guys are probably excluded. Tony was immediately struck. I am no longer on the combat power list and have been excluded? Is this more King hurtful? See this. Moyu didn't say much, raised his hands and pressed down suddenly. The world in front of him suddenly tumbled, and the space at the bottom of Gaian Pavilion was forcibly pulled up, and separated Osel from many Mephistos, completing the division of the battlefield. Mephistos of different shapes showed their original looks. In an instant, many eyes turned to Moyu, or in other words, Zhongli beside Moyu. Morax, full of hatred, Rage's roar echoed throughout the mirror space. The losers, who had been suppressed for more than 2,000 years, frantically vented their hatred towards Morax. What's more, they couldn't suppress the madness in their hearts and immediately launched an offensive. So scary, Paimon, who was frightened by the crazy scene, shrank directly behind Moyu, trembling. Don't worry, Zhongli, get away quickly, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die. Don't worry, you won't die. Moyu raised his left hand and rubbed Paimon's white hair, then turned to Zhongli and said. Please protect Paimon. That's how it should be. Zhongli nodded slightly. In a moment, no one can hurt her. This is a great sense of security. After letting Paimon go to Zhongli's side, Moyu took a step forward without any haste. He raised his hand and waved. The dark alloy armor was already covering his whole body, and the dark alloy rod also appeared in his hand. With his right hand clenched into a fist, the battle engine started running, and golden light spread all over his body in an instant. Gigantic mode, turn on, seeing Moyu's figure rise to more than 100 meters under the golden light. Turned into a giant with golden light all over his body. The group members all raised their heads and showed surprised expressions. Moyu, you have become so big. One finger is much bigger than mine. Is this the Dharma, heaven and earth? No, it's just the giant mode. Moyu calmly shook his head. The laws of heaven and earth can be called supernatural powers, and they are much greater than this. In a fragment of a broken memory of the super gene of fighting gods and Buddhas. A figure as high as Airsems from the god group is considered the entry-level level for beginners. Theoretically, as long as the energy, mana, is enough, the entrance level Fatn Shang Di can achieve. How can this body, which is only over 100 meters long, be called the Dharma, heaven, elephant and earth? Just don't give yourself any money. A drop in the bucket? No, it's just the level of atomic dust. Compared to us, you are already a pervert. Tony couldn't help but complain. When I fought against Hulk before, it was just for fun. Fortunately, he thought you had done something. Gone. Okay, no more nonsense 850, let's complete the task quickly. We have a full 10 hours. We can finish the battle in half an hour. We can spend the rest of the time however we want. Wouldn't it be nice to use it to take a good look around the world? The words fell. Moyu took a step forward, and the dark alloy rod in his hand surged in size again. Mephisto was aiming at the attack with a powerful and heavy blow. Boom! There was an explosion, and the space was slightly rippled by the blow. The fastest one, Mephisto, who looked like a rhinoceros, was directly hit by the head-on blow, shattering the rhinoceros horn in half of its head. The broken Beelzebub's body flew out upside down, hit the extremely strong space barrier, and then bounced back. After jumping on the spot twice, it declared that it had lost the ability to fight. There is also a gap between Mephisto and Mephisto. Mephisto is as weak as salt, and can even be penetrated by mortal weapons and cause death. As strong as Morax, magical weapons cannot break defenses, and a reporter gun can create hundreds of miles of islands. Mephisto is not a synonym for powerful, it is just a synonym for a group. After clearing away the first Mephisto, Moyu didn't waste any time and rushed directly into the pile of Mephistos alone. The dark alloy rod in his hand was swung wildly, turning on the killing mode. Everyone, let's go together. Rimuru raised his hand and shouted, for the power of the ancient dragon, this half-broken Hainer. Fire spear, charge. Xing, who had already lost his patience, was the first to mention amber and launched a charge. Windblade, windblade, windblade. Desolate star, desolate star, desolate star. Dissipate with the wind, turn into dust. Yingmei didn't hold anything back, the elemental power in her body surged out like a flood. Should I shout something too? Looking at this scene, Tony blinked. The arc reactor was running at its limit, and every hit was the most powerful arc pulse cannon. It's a pity that he couldn't shout out because of his overwhelming shame. How old he is not as good as these energetic guys. The other side, the immortals who met with Zhongli looked at this scene with strange expressions. He wanted to help, but the Emperor didn't take any action. It's neither possible for them to move now, nor for them to move now. Emperor, is it okay to let them kill many Mephistos? Mandrill, who had been silent for a long time, asked the question that he had been worried about. After the death of Mephisto, the remaining power of Mephisto will turn into Mephisto residue, causing karma to spread all over the earth, causing disasters, giving birth to evil spirits, causing plagues, and turning the fertile soil into death. Li Wei suffered from this early in the morning, so the Emperor changed his strategy with Mephisto to seal them instead of directly killing them. Even so, over the millennia, many yakshas have become entangled in demonic obstacles and died as a result of clearing their karmic obstacles. If all these Mephistos died here, Ada, the richness of the Mephisto residues would probably turn the entire Yunlihai into despair. I know you are worried. Zhongli looked at the surrounding space that was obviously different from Teyvat, with a smile on his face. The space here is not connected to Teyvat, and Mephisto's death will not affect Yunlihai. Don't worry too much about Mephisto's residue. Very good. Mandrill breathed a sigh of relief. He held Hipuyuan tightly in his hand and said in a deep voice, in that case, Emperor, do we want to join the battle? There are quite a few Mephistos at the moment, but he and the four immortals are a little lower. Although it can't help much, it can at least share some pressure. Zhongli shook his head slightly, with a solemn look in his eyes. They came here with a purpose in mind, so naturally they won't allow us to interfere at will. we can just wait and plunder the formation. Moreover, this matter needs to be treated with caution. If he heard correctly just now, when the monster in human form named Rimuru started the war, Seping mentioned the power of the ancient dragon? This undoubtedly involves the core authority of Teyvat. The matter was so important that even he couldn't help but be very energetic. If this matter is not handled well, I'm afraid it will directly attract the attention of the maintainers of heavenly principles. Even though the maintainer has been sleeping for more than 500 years, this kind of incident involving Teyvat's original authority may inevitably disturb the other party. It is difficult for the maintainer of heavenly principles to speak, but the person in front of him may be even more difficult to speak. The immense and boundless power that had been shown to reassure him before was still frightening to him until at the moment. If the other party is annoyed and starts a war with the maintainer, that would definitely be a major disaster affecting the entire Teyvat. In a battle of that level, it was a question whether he could keep Liyue Port, let alone participate in it. There was no room for him to be careless. I don't know where the travelers attracted these horrible guys. It really gives me a headache. It was obviously just a small test for Liyue, and the contract with the god of ice was completed by the way. Why did it get to this point? In the current situation, he could no longer close the situation. We can only hope that things don't take a worse direction. Zhongli's worries were naturally unknown to everyone in the fierce battle. Even if they knew, few people would probably care. Put the rest of the things aside, complete the group mission first, and get the power of the ancient dragon before talking about other things. In 4 people. No, in the explosive battle between the 3 people except Tony, Osel, who was already covered in wounds, was already facing the threat of death. On the other side, Moyu, who had turned on the giant mode, was already killing everyone. The battle seems to be gradually coming to an end.